Hello. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me, Alayla?
I can. Hello.
Oh, hello. Hello. Hello to you and hello to everyone. We have started. We are here. We are here with the weekly milestone. I'm your host, as always, Eric's, otherwise known as Andrew. And today, Sryan's going to be a little late, but he is going to be here, so I'm going to leave his border up uh, for expediency. Sidin will not be here today. He had some real life stuff going on. Um, so yeah, right now it's just me and Alayla, our special guest for this week. How are you doing this week?
It's been okay. It's been busy, but pretty good overall.
That's good.
How are you? Sorry.
It's okay. We didn't really rehearse this, but that's also kind of one of the things I like about this show is it's whatever we're feeling in the moment. So I'm a big fan of the truth, both in game and out. And yeah, Phoenicia, I got the reactive images working. Yeah, I figured it out. At first, it wasn't working very well, but then I completely redid it and it started working. So, yeah, it's been a learning experience this week in that regard. We have a bunch of topics for this week. Obviously, we could get into them, but I think I'd like Srine to be back for some of them. Um, but yeah, is there anything that you'd like to
Mhm.
discuss that's been on your mind about Ayatollah or anything else really?
I was just thinking about how embarrassing this is gonna be because I um I don't say people's names out loud, and so you're gonna get like a lot of my first best guesses at how to pronounce names.
It's okay. I've noticed that's a common thing with things in Ayatollah. Like, there's all kinds of weird words that are hard to pronounce. Like, they're second nature to us in our brain when we, say them to ourselves. But when you actually speak them aloud, it's kind of weird. Yeah. But no,
Yeah.
no
Oh
judgment.
well, and I know that I've generally always had kind of weird character names, so I at least sympathize like when people say things about like my character's name, like they rhyme it with something, and I go, oh, that's not how that's pronounced, honey. That's not right.
So,
Um,
okay. So how do you pronounce your name?
oh, Alayla is yeah, Alayla is just Alayla, but
Okay.
um, past characters, people always used to do like, how are you doing?
Right.
But like it's not pronounced that way. It's Hawa.
Yeah.
Um,
So it'd be more like, how are you doing? Right.
yeah, yeah, a little, yeah. It's just um, so and Vixis is very weird too. So like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't blame anybody for being like, wait, you say it how?
Yeah, I wasn't around for your first character, so I never had to try and pronounce it. But yeah, it definitely. How do you spell it? I'll honors it so people can see what you mean.
Oh, Vyxsis.
Okay. Yes. There's her previous character, everyone. And yeah,
Yeah, that would be my main claim to fame or infamy, I guess.
yeah. I think a lot of us that have played this game for a long time always like, well, not always, but a lot of us will eventually like have our first character that we make all of our crazy mistakes or crazy stuff on, and then we'll, eventually move on to a new one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's very common. People have either multiple characters concurrently or at different times, so yeah. I just
Uh
realized I have to look at the
oh,
topic list.
yeah, also I don't know if you have the stream pulled up and can see chat or not. But Almol said Almol's in the chat and says he can't hear you, but I can hear you and nobody
Well,
else
that's
has said they
his
can't.
fault.
Fair enough. Maybe I'll turn the
Almond,
system sounds a little bit.
almond, be quiet. Nobody cares.
Oh,
Just kidding.
Is Almond trolling us? Is that what we got going on here?
I don't know. Am I, let me see, maybe, can I increase my own volume? Let me see.
In my headset, you're coming through pretty good. And OBS here shows like the system sounds light up whenever you're talking. So
Yeah, I can see on the stream when
yeah,
well, after a second when I've been talking, it lights up.
yeah,
Okay, at least one person says that I sound fine,
yeah,
so
yeah. Oh, hello
it's just
there.
almond. Almond is broken.
I'm not sure I've seen the Silo before. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank everyone for coming. Um, yeah, I mean, we could get into some of the topics, me and you. For one of the things, I don't know what he meant by it, but he was always like, let's do, a guild versus guild discussion for like Templar and Carnifex. And
Oh,
obviously,
right.
we've got one of each here, but like, since it was his topic in particular, I'd kind of like him to be able to lead that one.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Um, but yeah, there's some other topics we had. Obviously, you've got them pulled up. Is there any in particular you'd like to start with?
No, I was just trying to give my mind some direction
I
so I'm not
got you.
babbling so much.
It's fine. I'll pick
Um,
one if you want.
yeah, go for it.
Also, in response to Zavin, Srine, I think he's coming, but he said he's going to be late. And then when he gets back, he'll come. I'll import him, and he'll be in here with us. And so I guess we could go ahead and start with the second one on the list, the order system. I kind of threw that up when we were brainstorming for this week, because it's like one of those things where I feel like they've made changes to the order system over the years, but it also feels like it's been a long time since we've saw any of those changes. And I think there's things that we could like talk about that we would maybe like to see get changed with the order system. Do you have anything like that? I mean, I have thoughts.
Um, yeah, so I mean, like, the I don't think the order system has changed meaningfully since I started playing, because I only started playing in like the end of January 2017, and there has been like one actual order war in that time, I think.
Right.
Um, maybe like some others that were like scuffles, but not like a full-on order war. Um,
Yeah, the only one that I know of in the past 2 years that I've had this character was the time that the Templar decided to. Oh, thanks for the follow, Hilera. Appreciate it. That's one of the fine Solani that helps volunteer on the game that watches our stream. Thank you for following. Appreciate it.
uh,
Um,
not a prisoner.
yeah, not a prisoner, Hilera. Um,
Uh,
I'll actually I'll honor sir.
I love the Solani all have their honors that are kind of goofy and they're very fun.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah. The Solani are great. I like checking out their honors, and I've noticed that some of the ones that we know aren't Solani anymore still have the characters, so, but you can like go back and read theirs too. They used
Yeah.
to. It used to be that like after a while they would delete the characters and stuff, but anyway, in regards to the
Well,
Order War. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Silo was pointing out that Bamathus, Bamathus, Obamathus,
Yeah.
versus Chalk is the only official one that we've had in a while, and that was the one that I was thinking of.
Oh, okay.
Um, there have been other things like you were saying
It was Iocene
Templar
versus the
versus
Mario.
Iceland, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, was that versus Demario, or was it
Well,
like
what it was
Templar
is
versus...
like, well, you back then, and I don't know if you can still, but like basically the Templar decided to go defile Iocene shrines, and you can't declare holy war on a guild. So they
Right.
decided to just randomly pick the weakest
Oh, that was what
order
happened. Okay, yeah,
order
yeah.
and go after them. I don't
It
know if
wasn't
that was
really
the
around
intent, but
for
that's
that.
what happened. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
basically a
no, I
Lolly
don't.
and Tencho versus like everybody in Iocene's order.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a situation that's hard. Like when you're an order and you're being attacked either by well, but by any non-order entity, like your options for retaliating or dealing with it are very limited. Um, because I know like this is something I did when I was Vix. Like I had been going on this little spree where I was first I was defiling ethnos shrines because
Hmm.
like I was being all like Illumini, boo. Um, and so like I had some people being like, "Why are you picking on ethne? Like they don't have anybody." At the time, they didn't really have anybody. Um, I think maybe like there was Rasani and she was like pretty inactive at that particular point in time. And it just kind of like it was like, okay, well, Vix doesn't have an order at the time.
Hmm.
This is before Tanaxalthus was around. Um, so they were like, well, what do we do? Like, yeah, we can come kill you, but like, you clearly don't care about that. And
Yeah.
and so like I personally was brought around to think that like, okay, this isn't fun for other people, so I'm not gonna continue doing this. I
Right.
think the thing that happened with the Templar was a little bit different that in that there was um like a confluence of factors that made it seem like um the Templar as a whole were kind of picking on Iosine's order when really it was just like a few people happened to all be trying to do that one um
Yeah.
optional progression task, you
Yes.
know.
Yes. We have in the Templar we have these rights that we can do, and at the time it's not even true anymore because of that whole event. But at the time, part of one of them there was three parts to one of them, and one of them was like participate in a cleansing or something like that, cleansing of shrines or something. But before we went and did it, we actually had like an in character big like guild meeting in the Pentarch's office or whatever. And it was Benedicto at the time, and he was basically giving everyone the option as to whether they wanted to participate or not. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and like I totally I totally get it. Like from a RP standpoint, like I totally get it. It makes sense for the Templar to want to um, be kind of militantly against shadow deities.
yeah,
Um, and so like that's a very real way to do that.
yeah,
I will say that like the Carnifex we have something similar in at least one of our paths. But it's like I think the thing that really probably made it balloon into the whole like situation where people were angry and stuff was that it seemed to be happening like en masse all at once. Because
yes,
it's like if you have just like one random Templar or in our case one random Carnifex like goes and nukes a few shrines, then like it's a little bit annoying, but like it doesn't look like something like huge is happening. Whereas if you have a bunch of people all at once that are like, we're all killing Einstein shrines, and people are like, whoa, what the hell?
right,
Um, and so yeah, I think that just unfortunately got out of hand, and I think also like at the time, I'm trying to remember exactly when this was. I think at the time there was just already kind of like a lot of um heightened tension between the sides,
hmm,
unfortunately, and like that's a thing that we kind of experience in waves, right? Like
yeah,
sometimes we'll just be real big mad about um, spirits being jerks or shadows being jerks or whatever. And yeah, it's unfortunate. It happens. Um, I think we're about to have Sryan in here. Is it Sryan? Is that how you
Yeah, Syrian, whatever. Or you could be like Kalina and pronounce it Syrian. So I've
Syrian?
stopped correcting her now.
All right, gonna import your camera here in a second.
All right, cool.
Let me see here. We can keep talking, but yeah, like you know, it all also a lot of that comes down to like how each person feels about that. Like some people like that sort of conflict, and then some others
Yeah.
don't and whatnot.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I think that like the to bring it specifically back to the order discussion, I guess. Um I think the problem is that like orders just don't have ways of interacting with the with non-order entities.
right.
Um so like you just can't really do anything. You can't I mean they don't claim territory really. I guess a shrine is the closest to claiming territory. Um but like the organizationally an order is like a very not like doesn't really have any world presence for the most part.
Yeah,
Um,
I
and I don't
agree.
know. I mean, I don't really know what orders were like. You know,
A
6 years
long time
ago
ago.
or
Yeah,
more.
yeah. Like I feel.
Uh,
You go ahead, Steve.
oh, I was gonna say that. I mean, I've been in like a couple of order wars. Uh, Holy shit, that was like super loud.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn
Um,
you down a little bit.
oh no, I
There we go.
just popped onto the Twitch like main page and like it auto played somebody else's thing. But
Actually, I might have turned you down a little too much. Let's turn
uh
it back up a little bit.
anyway, so
There we
like
go.
order wars back in the day, it was like strategic like shrine placement. Like having shrines in like a particular area, like especially like a hotly contested zone, is what why they were put there. So there was actually like more of a use like out of them back in the day uh than now,
Thanks for the
where they're
follow,
just
Wyatt.
where they're
Sorry.
basically
It's another Solani.
Yep.
just for offering. Well, I'm trying to get my camera fixed.
It's okay. I know it's hard to
Yeah.
derp around with elements in your computer while you're talking. I have to do it sometimes when I'm doing this. But yeah, like obviously like everything else in Aetolia, originally when Aetolia launched, all of its systems were copied from Achaea. Um,
Yeah.
and I feel oh, there's your camera. Let me fix it real quick. It's imported now into the stream. They can see it, but I just gotta fit you inside the box here. There we go. Good enough. All right, but yeah, like a lot of things were imported from Achaea, but they've still changed a lot of stuff over the years as well. And we're a lot different than they are now still. But even like my experience of playing Empyrean, they had like a similar experience. A lot of their systems were copied from Achaea as well. But the thing is, in Empyrean, they never really changed the order system at all, like that much. Whereas at Aetolia they have, but I'm not sure that we all like what they have as far. Like I think that's the common thread is that a lot of people, and not to be too negative, but like a lot of us are like, yeah, you could probably change what we have now to something better for sure.
So I'm seeing um OG Dankosaurus.
Yeah, that's Scandland.
Uh oh, scanned. Okay, so I was seeing he's saying that they could take it to the city level, and so if they want to escalate, the city hosting the shrine defiler could decide if they want to stand up for that person or to get them to stop. So I mean, like in my example that I was mentioning a little bit ago, with Vix was like I was GM with the Indorani at the time, and um Bloodlock was also like not super active,
Hmm.
and like so who was gonna tell me to stop?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
um, and and at the time, like I was probably at least top three PKers in the game, and so like yeah, like nobody's gonna tell me to stop. A kind of similar a kind of similar thing that somebody suggested was go after the guild's patron. Um, in the case of me defiling Ethne or Demariel or whoever, like those orders could go after Chakrasul, for example, to put pressure on me,
Right.
because then Chakrasul could be like, hey, what the hell? Like you're doing this, and now they're retaliating. Um, but I think the thing that that at least I'm getting at, and maybe you guys agree or disagree, is that there's just not like a formal mechanical way to do that. And so it's always going to end up being a little bit messier than we want it to be.
Hmm.
And there are going to be people who are, uh, for right or wrong, they're going to end up being upset about it. Um, because it's not something that they can mechanically deal with. Um,
Yeah,
'Cause,
you
you
just don't
can't
have
have
the tools.
yeah. Um, so that's I don't know, it's hard, but like, eh,
Yeah, it's I know a lot of times we give the development team a lot of crap, but like I there's a lot of times like we just said it's hard. Like it's hard to make a decision when all the decisions don't look great. It's like you could do this, but then what about this? So it's like it's not easy coming up with something that everybody thinks is good.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's I don't know how to develop a game. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, and so like I try to maintain a certain, kind of um equanimity about that, I guess, or just like I'm not too I try not I mean more so now. I was pretty bad about it at one point in time, but yeah, I mean it's just
Yeah. Well,
I
one
don't
one one thing, like, not really so much about holy wars and stuff, but one thing that I've always found kind of weird about orders is that, like, so, and I'll show an example on screen here. So you look at my score screen, right? And obviously I'm not in an order, but I have been on this character before, and like, the order is put right in your organization's box on your score screen, right? So it's
Mhm.
like an organization, like a city or a guild. That's what is implied by it being right there, but it does not operate in any way like a city or a guild. That's what has always been weird to me. Like in a city and a guild, um, it's very meritocracy, right? You do things, you put in work, you get rewards, you know, you get lifted up in those organizations or whatever. But it feels like, at least in the experience I've had in both Shadow, being in a Shadow order and being in a Spirit order in the last, what is it, like 6, 7 years, is it's not like that. It's literally just like, and I kind of agree and disagree with it, but it's just like whoever the god likes the most, regardless of merit, is
Oh
lifted
yeah,
up.
absolutely.
But my point is it's not like that in the other two organizations typically. You know, maybe it is in some, but I'm just saying like,
yeah, I mean,
I
I
mean, I
think
think there's definite
ideally,
favoritism that goes around, in cities
yeah,
and guilds.
yeah, there definitely is. But it's less there's going to be less of it being up to one person specifically,
yeah, because
right?
I guess the reasoning behind that I've kind of thought of is like, okay, if I'm gonna think in my mind that an order is not a meritocracy like a guild or a city is, then what is it? And I've always thought, well, it's basically a cult of personality. Like you're in this thing that's basically, instead of being together in something as a whole, you're all just there for that one thing. So that one person, in this case, the god. So I kind of get it in that sense because it is based around a really powerful singular figure, but it also just kind of feels weird where a lot of these orders also have progression systems, but then you're like, well, why is there a progression system if in the end it doesn't? It's not. It's just not even a meritocracy. So I don't know.
I think that it depends a lot on the particular god in question.
Yeah, that's
Because
possible.
I know that for instance, like Chakrasul um has a apparently pretty thorough system. I have never personally experienced it, but I have been told stories.
Hmm.
Um, that they have like tasks and things to let people progress at least up to a certain point. Um, and then you'll have uh you'll have things like with Tonic Office where like at least before, I mean maybe this changed after I left my first time. Um but like you used to be able to not even get in the order unless Tenexalthus herself like specifically brought you in.
Right.
And like she was the only like there were no particular like procedures or anything. Like she just put people where she decided to, which made sense for her character, I think. But and then again, like in contrast, Sliff was my first order,
Hmm.
and that was one where like I did a task that an order member gave me, and I got in, and then um I was basically promoted by recommendation from a player to Sliff to be one of the leader type people, the historian.
Right.
Um and so yeah, you have like I don't know, you have a variety of things, but I kind of get what you're saying. I think it's hard given given the number of tools that that are available to orders that are like specifically dependent on the god being involved. Because like obviously the gods can do kind of anything they want, but like
Right.
they have to be involved pretty heavily for that. Um and like so the order really only functions within its domain.
Yeah.
Um and
Yeah.
yeah, I think I find that hard in terms of like driving activity beyond the order.
Yeah. It could also, in my case, just be random luck because like I was in the two orders that I was in Shadow. I was in Chakrasul, and this was Chakrasul of like 6 years ago. And then when I came back, I was in Ethne's order, and maybe it was just because they were similar. Um, I know why they were similar, but I'm not gonna talk about that. Uh, but yeah, like I just it's weird because like it's kind of a weird thing. Like I felt disappointed by the fact that like once I was like, okay, this is not what I thought it was. I just felt a little disappointed by it, but then I also kind of understand it. Like if you look at it that way. Oh goodness. Okay, I almost died there, guys. What do you think, Steve? What are your experiences with orders and stuff like that? And
Um, I mean, I've only been in, I want to say, 4 orders with Sran. I think I started out in Severn's order, then got cured, went to Lias, and then once I went back to Shadow, I think I was in Chakrazul, and then now I'm in Dar's order. Uh, I've probably felt the most at home in Severn's. Chakrazul probably a close second, and Dar's order has been pretty dead since I've rejoined it.
mhm,
So, uh, definitely, I don't know. I feel like that the order system in general is very antiquated, and it definitely needs to be overhauled. Uh, Especially with like defiling shrines. It does really nothing other than than to just be a nuisance to the order members to like erect new shrines. So I mean, we have. I want to say that like Dar's order right now, we're sitting on like millions of shrine energy.
right.
So like even that one time that that Alela dusted one of our shrines in Esterport, I mean, it literally did nothing, to slow us down. So, but it was just like just taking the time out to have to go, re-erect one of those and sanctify it, is just it's just a waste of time. So I think that to make it more meaningful, you kind of need to like redo it from the ground up. Plus, defiling itself is just kind of silly that you get like open PK on somebody just because they have the aura of defilement or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's
Uh,
wild too because it's like the most like it's a really unique thing that only applies to that one single thing. Like there's nothing else in the game that gives like that kind of a timer on being open PK, you know? Like
right, but I mean, but it doesn't do anything except for just promote somebody to sit there AFK for 24 hours to wait for the defilement order to
right.
wear
Yeah,
off. Which is
yeah,
exactly
exactly.
what I want to say Azami did recently with Ethne's order.
Yeah.
dusted a couple of her shrines, and then she basically just sat AFK in her haven for a day until it wore off. So,
Yeah.
but personally, not a fan of how orders are set up right now, especially with the uh, the order privileges are like fine. Order wars. I mean, well, I don't even know when the last time anybody had an actual order war. Because it basically just seems like whoever has the most bodies to throw at, at something is going to be the winner. So, uh, and then in terms of like promotion and stuff like that, um, I don't remember. I remember Leah's had a pretty good one where she had like the four different seasons or whatever. She had like summer, spring, winter, and fall or whatever, and you got to like choose which part of her, which branch you wanted to go in. And I think winter was like the people that were like her PK or like PK sect of her order. And then spring was like the people that handled the all the cures and stuff like that. So it was a neat little like where everybody kind of had their own little like division inside the order and everybody had their own purpose. So you at least had something to work towards versus like me currently in Dar's order. Like I got named champion in just title only, and the task that was given to me was that in order to become mechanically named champion, I have to place top 20 in sect, which like seems like very small, something small. Like Benedicto told me, like, oh, you can totally do that. I'm like, well, I don't like doing sect. Like from day
Right.
one, I basically went in there and said I prefer group combat. And sect actually gives me a lot of anxiety doing 1v1 stuff. Uh, I don't know why. It's not something I enjoy. I mean, if there's like a duel or something that that my character is like kind of required to do, I will go do that. Like I was happy to fight Mule at North of Trees, but I mean,
Yeah.
if I have to place top 20 in some arbitrary, ranking system so I can
Right.
be mechanically named champion,
That in
I guess
itself is
I guess
also able
that'll
to be gamed. So
right. Yeah. I mean,
so
sect is like a whole other thing where it's like, we have at any given time, like 30 people, who are members of the sect of Blades, but only like 5 of them are active, and I'm sorry, I don't really want to fight Durif, 30 times,
right.
in the
Yeah.
hopes to scrape out a win so that way I can place in top 20. So it's just not fun. It's just an absolute slog and I hate it. So
For
I
anybody
don't blame
that's
you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say for anybody who's watching the stream, sorry for the spam I'm about to do. Go ahead.
Um, oh no, I was just gonna say I totally don't blame you about sect. I mean, like, I used to live in sect a lot, but like, I've definitely moved away from it. Um, and like, I think it's been huge for me in terms of like my overall mood and attitude towards people to not be as involved with that. I think it's been really good. That's more of a me problem, of course. I don't mean to say that it's like a issue with sect itself, but I definitely understand like feeling like it it gets into you in a way that isn't pleasant necessarily. Um and like I definitely unless I mean personally if I were a Solani playing a god, I p- I personally wouldn't require any particular sect standing of somebody unless like I knew that they really loved doing that.
Right.
mhm.
Big agree.
Um because yeah, it's just so I mean the potential for like getting salty and burning out is really high. And the way the sect rankings like the rating stuff works, like I don't well, I guess I could check, but Alayla has been in the top 20, I think. Is she still? Let me um like since yeah, I'm number 12. I literally have not sected in months. And I only did like maybe I've maybe sected 10 times on Alayla. in the roughly a year or so, I guess, that she's existed now.
Right.
So yeah, so which is to say, like, I don't really think I should be at that position in the rankings.
Right.
And it's bizarre to me. It's bizarre to me, um, that it like there's something about the ELO. Like I don't know. I like I've never been shown exactly like how the math works, but like it to me something about it seems weird that people can um basically camp at a spot despite not having done anything.
Yeah.
Um and I found that very frustrating, like and particularly um the more you fought in sect, like before you were quote unquote good. Um, and so like if you lost a lot, but then you start to improve and you're doing like way, way better, it doesn't reward that a whole lot. It was very hard for me, with Vix that like when I started in sect on Vix, like I didn't know anything about PK. I didn't know how to code.
Right.
I was just learning, and I would go up against Trickle like over and over and over. Like I thought I joke that I got Treacle his second death site token. That is like it was all from fighting me over and over again. With occasionally Fezzix or somebody else, but like mostly Treacle.
Right.
And so I lost like a lot. Um and yeah, in Fezzix exactly. Um so like yeah, I lost tons and tons and tons and tons. And it wasn't until later that like I eventually um settled in, particularly after moving to Shadow. Um and I really settled in and like I kind of got to the top of my game again, or well, for the first time. And yeah, and I just found like there was like a plateau past which I could not seem to move on the sect rating. Um whereas like a completely brand new character who is like and like I try not to do like alt watching, but like this person's you see them, they come in with a fully formed, really good offense, and you're like, you're still 18. Like the
Yeah.
character's still 18. And you're like, okay, well you're kind of clearly somebody's alt.
Right.
And they go right up into the top 5 like immediately, and you're like, okay, well that's just makes me feel bad because like I
Yeah.
had to slave away at it.
You had this
Um,
massive like epic journey to where you got, and they're just like there instantly, and that feels bad. Yeah. But yeah, like that was actually a cool tangent. We didn't plan to talk about Sect, but I enjoyed it. I've my own experiences with Sect were kind of similar back when I played Shadow. But I think I was kind of around when Sect was originally made, and so like I got to do it around the beginning and stuff. And even back then, it was a lot of fighting people like Tricle. Like I fought Tricle back then too. I actually managed to beat him once with Shapeshifter in Sect, and then I never beat him again. But
yeah, that's kind of how he is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Oh
yeah,
gosh.
Sect is cool. I think we kind of said a lot about orders. I don't mean to be super negative about stuff, but like it's just like I feel like with orders and Sect and a lot of the systems, and we're gonna talk about some of the other systems too here in a bit. It's
Oh
like
boy.
yeah, it's like we've had this thing for a while. It's never been touched since, and then we get to see like the failings of it, like, and
Right.
that just is what it is. And I don't like just talking about the failings of stuff, but
I mean, I do want to say like my personal issues with sect are more about me and like my attitude and the way that I tend to respond to things.
mhm.
But as for orders, like I love God RP.
Oh
Like
yeah,
over and
agree.
over again, I find myself drawn to it, even when like the god that I've latched onto isn't really active. Um, which, for example, like Sliff was the first god that I was really, really into and part of their whole thing. Um, not really active.
Yeah.
Not really active at the time. So it is a thing that I love, and like I wish I had ideas, um, for how to make orders better, but I like frankly am just kind of not not overflowing with anything at the moment.
Yeah. What's like if you assume that my assumption is correct and that like they're not meritocracies like cities and guilds are, is that assumption, putting aside my personal disappointment in how it works, do you think that them not being meritocracies is a good or bad thing? Like in relation to an order and a god and stuff.
I
I mean, I
guess like
think it would give them stability if they did have something like that, because it seems like the way it is right now is that if you have one Selene who is playing Ethne or whatever, and then she really likes this core group of people, and interacts with them a lot, and they're like her order heads or whatever, and then the next Selene doesn't like these people at all, even if it's on a personal level or just because they don't know those people, that they, you know, the people who are suddenly in the cool kids club are now no longer that, and then they
Right.
wonder why their god, has replaced them as order head. So, and it's just there's really no rhyme or reason other than gods are fickle, and just the Selene behind them changed.
Yeah.
So, and I think that it it kind of makes players, especially I mean, from my perspective, hesitant to put so much into an order. If I think that the Selene is going to change, that my standing in the order will also change, because there's no set list of like requirements or tasks or whatever to kind of like prove myself and say, hey, I've done X, Y, and Z, so therefore I should have this rank. It's all basically like a popularity contest.
Right.
hmm, that's a good point. I think the thing that I often think about is how not so much when like a Solani changes, but like when the god just like loses a player altogether, the order just kind of tends to die.
Oh yeah, for
Because
sure.
because they are so heavily dependent on that god's activity
Right.
to keep the order alive. And so like the fact that order members can really only do so much with the order without the god. That's a thing that definitely, like, on the one hand, it makes sense, but it is a thing that really differentiates them from guilds, for instance, because a
Yeah.
guild can kind of continue to function without a patron, indefinitely. Um,
Yeah.
maybe they can't make as many cool things, but like
Yeah.
they can still get people doing stuff, and that's harder. Yeah, it's harder with an order.
Basically you lose, like when your patron's inactive, you lose perks but you still function, like whereas an order, if it loses its patron, it just doesn't function essentially, you know. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a weird thing, and like, I don't know what the correct answer is for it. I just do wish that maybe we could look at it sometime, like, and by we I mean, the pools or whatever. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I think one of the big things, being overlooked here is that, the Italian community has a lot of great ideas. They also have a lot of terrible ideas,
Right.
but it's worth, submitting, like polls or whatever, just to kind of get like a temperature check of like how the community is feeling. And maybe somebody out there has a great idea, but the only thing that, that is missing is like maybe like an Atolia forum post about what do you think could change the order system. I think that Sabati's post about the ministry system was pretty spot on. Ministries are awful, and I think most of them, including culture, especially culture, just needs to be nuked into the dirt. Like it is like the number one burnout ministry I think of any city.
Yeah. That's a good segue into our next topic, which will be the ministry system. Um, I'm sure this will be the most controversial topic of this week, but that's okay. I know a lot of people have liked to talk about this. We were talking. It's been talked about on the forums, like you just said. Sabati has laid it out before, and I think we talked a little bit about it on the official Discord recently, so I thought it'd be good to talk about it on here. Like it's another system that has been touched a little bit over the years, but by and large has not been drastically changed. And I, I think that there are some ministries that are just kind of pointless over time and antiquated and can be done away with. But yeah, you guys probably have a lot more to say about this than I do. So I'm gonna type help and worry and
Uh,
show all of our ministries.
I mean, I think that a lot of this stuff could just be automated, and rolled into like city leader positions, like herald or throne keeper or speaker or senator or whatever. Uh, I like the idea of make like attaching milestones to city positions so that way people feel involved. But I guess that one or two extra milestones a day, just for holding the spot doesn't really, I don't know, doesn't really do anything in the long run. Like I'd rather see some sort of like milestone reward that that city leaders can give out or something like one won't break the system, one a day, to
Yeah,
like city favor somebody, gives them one platinum keystone. I think
yeah,
that would be fine. It's for like good job for holding an arena event. Here's one milestone. So, but I mean, I think that a lot of the other stuff, like I think that you mentioned it before, was that most cities, I think, have some sort of tracking system for for lessers or lem or whatever. Uh, and I think that that stuff would be so much easier if it was just automated. That you attend a lesser, if you get aura, it just automatically records it like into the city. And then it just updates every
right.
however many days. So that way, all you need to do as a city leader is just go back and look at the project or look at whatever this help file is, and like boom, you see like your stuff's already there.
Yeah,
But because I think that we have a lot of these specific people in organizations who like their role is pretty much solely to do like the bookkeeping. Like I know that in the Templar we have Renee, that in Enorian we had Rastas, and without these people constantly like updating all these projects and just doing all this like just legwork of updating the numbers, like we would just be so lost in terms of keeping track of city points and stuff like that. And they really help. It's a thankless job because they really help like the city and the organization run that much smoothly or smoother. And I know that me personally, I don't enjoy doing that. I
right.
mean, I know that maybe some people do, but I mean, it would just be easier to just make it automated,
Yeah,
so that way we're not relying on those people. And if those people ever feel like that they need to, take a break or whatever, that your organization isn't entirely crippled by their loss.
right.
Yeah, I mean, like Bloodluck had that issue when Avarash took over and we were without player city leaders for
Hmm.
what was it, like almost 6 months or something. Um and yeah, we had a bunch of ministers that went missing or stopped playing or whatever. Um and we couldn't replace them. We couldn't really do anything. And like for the most part, I don't think anybody I don't think too many people noticed, honestly. I think the big ones that were problems were like trade. Um maybe only trade. Maybe somebody else in Bloodlock will yell at me that I've said that. But like I think that we kind of got along okay without most of our ministers. But
Right.
um I know like I'm security minister for Bloodlock right now. And I can tell you that the extent of what I do is like maybe once a week or every other week, I toddle on down to the barracks and I check city sigils, list missing, And if there's some missing, I do city sigils replace, and that's it. That's basically it. Like technically I have some other like responsibilities that might appear, like if there's some big thing that happens in the city and none of the throne keepers are there, security minister is like has the second most seniority or whatever. So I'm next in chain of command, but like that's not gonna happen. It's probably not gonna happen. And yeah, I don't know. Like I think ministries, they exist to make players feel involved, but like I don't know what they really do, because you mostly have um or you will often have like a bunch of ministers that you've like the average person may have never seen.
Right.
Um
Yeah. Because their role doesn't really require them to even be seen or active that much because of how pointless it is, essentially.
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much Rack, who was the chancellor in Anorian for God knows how long. I don't think I ever had a single interaction with that dude,
Yeah.
but apparently he did his job just fine.
Right. Well, I will say, my opinion is that, from all the experience I've had on these games over the years, is that I think if I had to guess, the intent of having ministries was probably originally to split the powers up from the council members in the cities. Uh, but like to make it to where they don't have every single command and can just with impunity do whatever they want. But I think that's kind of pointless when you have like an Honorian. Whenever anybody is appointed as a minister, they're immediately told by the leader to aid everyone in the council. So therefore, it's like,
Yeah.
like if you like, what is the point of you being a minister if everybody has the same commands and you're told to give them those commands?
Right.
And
Well,
mechanically, it works like that.
and the city leader always has access to all of that anyways.
Okay. I wasn't sure about
So
that.
like,
I haven't been a city leader yet on Aetolia.
I mean, neither have I, but that's what I'm told.
Gotcha.
So I've been told that a number of times. Maybe somebody will correct me. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of get why certain things exist. Like I think it's nice in theory to have um like the ambassador is like potentially a nice position to have, because they should be looking after new people primarily, um but also like if we had any kind of like meaningful political scene, the ambassador could potentially become meaningful. um a culture minister, like, theoretically could be doing all sorts of things, but I think that unfortunately the way people look at it is they see, oh, culture is responsible for um running events, and so if there are no events, it's the culture ministry's fault, when really like it should be the entire city should be making things happen in the city.
Right.
um I also feel like the cardinal could be a really cool like position,
Yeah.
but I've never experienced a cardinal who like was anything but an occasional like boon dispenser, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um
A boon dispenser. I'm
Yeah.
totally gonna title Kalina that the next time I see her.
Pensart Kalina, comma, boon dispenser.
Yep.
Yeah.
but I mean, yeah, I mean, you just like, I don't know, like it's not anything necessarily against those people, it's just that like that's all it seems to be, and like I have ideas for like things that I might do in a cardinal position, but like I've never been given cardinal.
Yeah.
um and I have wait, have I actually been culture minister before? I'm trying to remember now. No, I haven't been culture minister before. but I do know that like it's tiring for like one person to, be responsible or be made responsible or treated as responsible for, having all of the weight of whether or not a city is doing anything like on that person's shoulders.
Yeah.
Um, my experience personally with being a trade minister, which I think lasted like a whole 48 hours, um, was I restricted the amount of um, commodities. This was like way back in the day when I was in Duran. I don't
We
know.
all have problems with that one too. Don't feel bad.
Duran. We'll call it Duran.
Yeah, Duran Duran.
And so
Nice.
like
Sounds about
I had
right.
changed, right? Hungry like the wolf.
That's right.
Um, so I was in I was trade minister for like 48 hours, and I had changed the amount of commodities that were like openly available to buy at any one time. So you couldn't just have somebody come and like buy 6,000 of something and like empty it all out. And I had made a post saying, look, I totally understand that, some shopkeepers will need larger quantities than I've made available. Just get in touch with me or my aides and we will set it up, and we will probably even give you a bulk rate discount. Um, but I had somebody, and I won't name names, um, at least not on the stream. Um, but I won't say who, but like I had somebody just like totally berate me about this. They were just super mad, and because they're like, well, how am I supposed to run my shop if I can't get commodities? I'm like, well, I've given you a way to get commodities, and like we're talking right now, so like if you want commodities, like I can get them. I can make that happen. Like it doesn't have to be a problem. Um, but yeah, that person just like, oh my god, that person just was so mad, and it was so bad. Like they literally did a "I'm going to your manager" thing, and like went over my head and complained to me, or I'm sorry, complained about me to Aloli, and I was like, is this what this is like? Like I don't want to do this. This
Oh
sucks.
my
Yeah,
god.
because I'm
Just
a
like the
pretty new
lemon
player.
grab unacceptable scream.
Yeah, I mean, like, I had been playing for like maybe a couple of weeks at this point, and I had been talked into taking trade over because, like, at that point in time in Duran, like, Aloli was doing everything
Right.
and was making her crazy. So, so I was talked into taking over this to just make her life a little easier, and like, I wouldn't have minded it, but like, yeah, somebody just screaming at me for, the better part, I mean, screaming in text for the better part of an hour or whatever, over a non-issue. I was just like, yeah, I'm not gonna do this. This doesn't work for
Right.
me.
That's another
Uh,
good topic about the ministries is like Steve was even saying earlier, it's like it doesn't feel like the juice is worth the squeeze, honestly. Like it's like
yeah,
it's all like a lot of things in Ayatollah that I've noticed. It's either one extreme or the order. Extreme or the other. It goes back to what we said about orders. It's like, when you don't have an act of God, it is just awful. When you do have an act of God, it's awesome. It's great. But it's like when you're a minister, it's like if you have nothing to do, it's like absolutely pointless. But if you have stuff to do, then it becomes then it snowballs into becoming overwhelming too. So it's like
yeah,
I feel like a lot of things in Ayatollah that could be improved could be pushed towards the middle of a scale that they're currently on. Like a lot of things that we talk about and need fixed are like, one extreme or the other right now. You know, that's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and then some of the consequences of kind of not having your shit together. It seems very heavy-handed because I know that recently, I think when Lynn was briefly our steward or treasurer or something, I think they were in the middle of like getting everything set up with like an alias so that way they could just assign funds to certain ministries, and I guess they didn't assign enough to security or something, so all of our guards quit.
Oh God.
which is a big chunk of gold that that we had to eat,
Yeah.
which it's like, very, yeah, it's very I don't know, very punishing to just make one single mistake like that. I mean, not granted, like, Inorian definitely bounced back. I mean, but the
Right.
point is that nobody should have to eat, however, 100,000 gold, just off one mistake, you know. So
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like, yeah, I just think, it I think as far as solutions to ministries, I like the idea of being able to kind of like, get rid of them or enact them. Uh, and like, it would probably take a lot of work, but like, I think that the city leader should be able to like create and dissolve ministries and then give whatever commands and privileges exist for all the different ministries have different commands. Just make it to where they can assign those to whatever roles they want and call them whatever they want. That way you could like merge steward and treasurer if you feel like you trust that person, which may or may not be a good idea, but also that kind of adds to the drama of the game, which I think is good because then stuff happens. But
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, so like I struggle a little bit with a lot of these things that would um put like a lot of power into players' hands because I've seen more than once where um you don't not everyone has like the same sense of restraint.
mhm,
Um and so there will be people who go, well, it's not explicitly a rule, it's not explicitly mechanically disallowed, so I will do X thing. And um so like while it may not be like technically wrong, it's not like right either. Um, so like like an example, um, and I don't want to like slag him off here or anything, but like Fezix and uh what was her name? Like set up that large theft of commodities from Inorian.
mm,
Um and like that was a huge deal. And it was pushed against Atara. That's right. Thank you, Mil. Um, like y- like that was a huge thing, and I think that it's not so much that like it's not this isn't to say like physics is bad or Atara is bad. Like, um, it's just like that's a thing that like is mechanically allowed or was mechanically allowed at the time, and it was identified by players as a thing that they could exploit to try and generate some kind of conflict, at least allegedly. Um, but it was very upsetting and it was like a huge deal. So I kind of worry like, yeah, I mean, I just worry about people, lacking restraint or
right.
just not having adequate foresight. Or yeah, Dairy Duke, they might break an unspoken rule, that like either they didn't know or they disregarded because I mean there would be, I think, unfortunately, um people who disregard the unspoken rules intentionally, because they're not written down. Um so yeah, I don't know, like on the one hand, yes, like it makes sense that governments would be able to make ministries or destroy ministries at will, but I don't know if like the I don't know if the player base could handle it.
Yeah. Well, that's the.
yeah, I mean,
Go ahead,
oh,
Steve.
go ahead.
Sorry. No, you go ahead. I'll go next.
I was gonna say that Atolians have always been super weird when it comes to theft, and especially super weird when it comes to like the theft of comms. Like the atmosphere of the game is that you could like literally rip out somebody's sternum and like impale that little dork to death with it. but God forbid you steal their fucking lunch money and everybody loses their fucking mind.
Right. Yeah, it's just like I don't know, like the thing with unspoken rules and stuff. I'm not. This is a bit of a tangent, but I don't like unspoken rules, and it's for a lot of the reason that we spoke about before on the stream here. It's like I feel if you have too many unspoken rules, it just leads to people never doing anything interesting too. And then like it sucks that that happened to Anorian, but like we're still okay, all this time later. It's not like in the moment it's the end of the world, but in the long term, was it the end of the world? Probably not. It just led to more people being like, oh man, we should never do nothing like that again because so and so might be sad about it. Like I don't know.
I don't really know a whole lot about that situation, so I don't know if did Anorian ever get their comms back, or were those comms like lost
They
too.
did.
Mm,
No, they were given back, and like basically every god gave like a mega disfavor to the entire Sisson guild. So like people who were tri-trans were like suddenly 100% inept or something in all of their skills, and uh like it was like potentially interesting, but the pools at the time were trying to like, I guess, go for like an in character resolution um rather than one where they like actively, out of character stepped in and like made a dictate. But then afterwards there were changes to, how the trade ministry worked,
right.
um so that it couldn't be replicated.
Yeah.
um
But see, by them doing that super negative thing, they affected change, which I find fascinating. Like maybe obviously it felt really negative at the time, but it still like got something to change, and I think that that's interesting, personally.
it is
Like,
it is interesting, but I feel like it's not like a great message to send people, that like the only
yeah,
way you can get anything to change is to be a huge asshole.
right,
um and like
What?
it
This is
obviously
my
like it
whole
doesn't
character
always work.
design.
I know, right? Like, oh, I gotta go back to the drawing board.
Right?
But
Retire value.
like but like the, there's also this whole, and this isn't the only time. Like, it isn't the only time people have had that observation where they've seen, oh wow, like somebody like really really was a pain, and they got a result because of it, and people learn from that. And I don't know that I think that that's a good thing. Like, I don't want people to feel like they have to be more toxic,
right.
um to get a response, um because then we get things like Carrick, stepping down as combat had, and like, like, I feel like that was a net negative for the game. um like, not that I'm always like super excited about things Carrick has done, but like, I definitely think that if people had, um you know felt like they could get their ideas across in a less aggressive way,
Hmm.
um and like been responded to,
Yeah,
then perhaps that wouldn't have happened.
yeah,
um but unfortunately people have, sort of learned that they just have to press the nuclear button like right away. um so I don't know.
yeah.
I
It's
don't know.
like, well, it's like in regards to that, it's like sometimes people come off, and this is not just Atolia, this is the internet. You can type something and you can have an intent in your head, but like it's hard to come across a certain way in just text. Um, that's why I like the podcast we used to do, and this show now. It's like, I can say all these negative things, but in the end, I'm still gonna play Atolia. I'm not trying to be hateful about it. It's just that, like, you know, it's like I just want things to be better than they are. And if we have to keep saying that loudly, then that's what we'll do. But it's not like we're trying to hate on anyone. It's just
Yeah.
we want a better game. That's all, you know, like, and
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to get that across when you say these really harsh things in text, but you don't have like the tone of voice to back it up, you know. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, well, and like, it wasn't all just like people talking on the forums. Apparently, like, there was apparently at least some people who were making quasi death threats or something. I thought,
Oh
like
yeah,
via email, and
that's
obviously that's not a thing that we really want.
yeah, that's trash. That should just be removed immediately.
Yeah.
I have zero tolerance for stupid crap like that personally.
So yeah, I like. Yeah, there's obviously there's gonna be this tension between, like, of course people get heated sometimes and they're gonna like have an angry outburst. Like, I get that. I've been there. I try to do better, but it happens. But then there's the ingrained belief that, like, you have to be, angry or over the top to make anything happen. And I think that's the negative kind of mindset that we've um got really stuck in, unfortunately. i
Yeah.
don't i don't know exactly what the solution is, but I know that, for instance, in this example that I gave about Karak stepping down, some of the problem was that there was no response to people for days. I don't remember if it was a whole week, but there was definitely at least a couple days. um I guess I could look it up on the forum if I really wanted to, but it was more than, it was more than a day. It was multiple days, and that just doesn't really work out well. Um, I think in terms of, yeah, just like, it doesn't make for happy people to feel like they're being ignored. That doesn't excuse, of course, it does not excuse people from getting, ultra angry and escalating, but
Yeah.
um, there's just like there's a little bit of on both sides. Like, I wonder what we can do to foster a better working relationship with the admin.
Oh yeah. Thanks
I
everybody for
think
the follows, by the way. Before we go on here, go ahead, Steve.
Oh, I think a lot of it has. I mean, I haven't been on the forums in like a couple weeks, but I know that Tier was doing, like updates where he would let the player base know, like, what the pools are working on. And I think that a little transparency goes a long way, because for the most part, I mean, I think that most of us have heard all these different rumblings about how oh, customizations take too long, or oh, housing requests take too long, and like we don't exactly know like what all is being worked on behind the scenes. So if you go a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month plus of not hearing back about this one issue, you start to get frustrated as a customer, and you're wondering why you're sinking hundreds of dollars into this game
Right.
when you're getting like no customer support and no transparency in terms of what these people are doing with your money or the salary that you're paying them. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and we've all dealt with that too. It's like, again, not trying to be overly negative about all this, but like it's just the thing we've all dealt with, and even the people that run this game have probably dealt with it in other things in life too. Like they know what we're talking about. Like, and I just feel that there's a lot of instances in Ayatollah of things not being transparent, things not being documented. Like there's a very huge lack of information, from like I talk about this a lot on our clans and stuff, like how many ability files and help files just don't have the correct information in them and just go unchanged. And then we have to use help edits to fix them, you know?
Right.
And
I mean, I just want to like throw out a little like brief thing here that change log or whatever in like re-announcing, I guess, bulk work and forging. I fucking love it.
Right? You were talking about
Dude,
that
like,
last night.
Oh
dude, yeah,
yeah.
the fact that I can knock out like 10 or however many like multiples of stuff is just like I don't know, just
Yeah,
amazing.
Bulkwork's probably
It
been in the game
happened.
Joel
forever.
has had
It happened.
no
Yeah, apparently
idea.
it's been in the game for a while, but there
Yeah,
was no help file, so
and
nobody
people
really
just
knew
don't
it
know.
existed. So
Well, it's
I
like
think
we
Mule
go
I
ahead. I'm
think
sorry.
Mule had like actually coded like a whole module or mini system for forging things and making it easier, and it's sort of like it
Yeah.
sort of like manually did what Bulwark does.
Right, right.
Um,
I
so
feel for
so
you.
she's
That
like,
sucks.
yeah, when that went up, she is in a different Discord server, I think, than the main Atolia one. She was like, "What the hell? Where has this been?"
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of things like that. I know that like I personally, in my little adventures in IKEA that I've done a couple of times, I really love their ABs. Because all their AB files, like they're all, I mean, first of all, they're all standardized. They don't make as much effort to be flavorful as ours do,
Right.
but they do have like really specific information in them. Like they say, um, they say the command, of course, but then they say like what the base balance time is, and they say specifically what afflictions, if any, the thing gives. And I feel like that is really good, just like from a transparency perspective, and like letting people have the knowledge
Yeah.
instead of like having to guess like,
Yeah.
okay, oh, I've discovered this ability and I've used it for the first time, and oh, it does this thing. Is it supposed to do that thing, or
Yeah.
is that a bug? If I use it, am I
Right.
exploiting a bug?
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Absolutely. And I have all kinds of bugs and typos submitted that are just like that. It's like, well, I don't know if this is a typo, if it's a bug or a feature or whatever it is, but this is like this. And then like sometimes I get responses, sometimes I don't, but it's just like and this is a bit of a tangent, but I do think it is related to like the customer service aspect. It just feels like we're just not given enough like a lot of information in general. And I don't know if that's on purpose. I don't know if that's by design. I don't know if that's just like people being busy and forgetting. But like I'm a big stickler about like AB files, and I really, really, really wish there was an AB edit, like there's a help edit. Because there's so many instances of
yeah,
things that need to be changed, and they're just not changed, and I can't change them, and then they just sit there, and it's just
yeah, I've been told that you can file a typo, or which is like a
right.
specialized kind of bug report, but anybody who has submitted bug reports probably knows that they can disappear into the void. Um,
Yeah,
and again, like there are only so many, paid administrators.
yeah.
And so like,
They already
you
have a
know,
bunch of probably more important things to worry about. I get it.
yeah, and so like I don't know. I mean, like totally like I think that there should be more communication, but there's also like, where do we balance our expectations as players? Because we do have like unprecedented, well, maybe not unprecedented, but we have of game of game players more access to our game runners, the production team and
Hmm.
developers, than like, any other form of game, right? Like
Right.
I can't
Like MMOs and
um
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I obviously like the Final Fantasy, like Squaresoft doesn't give a shit about me, right? Like
Right.
I I'm not talking to, the producer for Final Fantasy 14 like ever, right?
That would be fun
Uh
though.
yeah, I mean it could be fun, but like and
But
like
yeah.
there's a problem of scale there too. Like
Right.
they couldn't handle that. Um and so yeah, I kind of, I don't know, I bounce back and forth where it's like, okay, well, like we need more communication, but we also don't have like the staff to
Yeah.
effectively. meet that need. So
For
I don't
sure.
know.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to. It's again, it comes down to balancing things. It's like too much of one thing or the other can cause problems. Um, I will say, and I don't think she would care if I mention it, but I lived with Elizabeth for the past year, and she sends me messages sometimes, and she texts me the other night. She's like, she logged in or something and messaged here because she's had like a thing that she's needed to get fixed with her housing for over a year now. That got broken by changes they made to the way vampire houses and stuff worked on
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. And like she's messaged and emailed about it, and I guess Tier's just too busy or forgets about it. But like she's literally had a request in with him for like over a year now.
Yeah, I just heard
So
from somebody who was like going on 6 months or something.
yeah,
And I'm sure there are other examples, but
but
yeah, it just gets lost.
and I know it stinks, but I really that's like when we had the outage this past Monday. I don't know if you guys remember that the game was out for hours or whatever, and a lot of us
Hmm.
were in the official Discord, and Tier was in there, and he was like asking people's opinions on what they would do if they were producer or whatever. And I had said that I think you should like delegate some more stuff, and people were like, oh, he already does that, and but like that's just like an example. Like if he has got too much going on that he can't do that thing for over a year for someone, it's like shouldn't you like consider letting somebody else do that? Like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's not clear to me. Like, um, some things he may not be able to hand off. Um, just because like Solani can't deal with like money issues, anything that was,
Yeah,
money related. Um, and so like there may be like I don't know how many things that really encompasses. Um, obviously they're going to be like disciplinary things or like, resolving issues really has to go through the paid admin. Um, but certainly things like um for example, um the uh the proxy war in the Laruma, um there were supposed to be additional rewards for the winning faction with the Ophidians. Um, and if I recall correctly, Tyr said something about um, it was his mistake, and that he didn't feel good about um putting that on a Solani to fix. Um,
right.
but at this point, it's been what, 3 years or more, I think,
Yeah,
since the Lirima War, and obviously, like, as time goes on, um, there are always going to be like new things that require attention, and so I kind of wonder, like why is that something that a Solani couldn't do? Like, we're just talking
right.
about in-game reward items, um, to be, purchased with uh the faction currency. And so, that seems like a kind of thing that, yeah, he definitely could delegate. And, it's way past time for that to be delegated.
Yeah,
Whether to Solani or like as Phoenicia just suggested, a builder. Um,
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Also, Scanlon just said maybe Tyr feels like he has to carry this all by himself. I think that it's less like if he feels like he has to carry it by himself, it's because he's being told he has to by his bosses. And I think that goes back to like I really think that Iron Realms as a whole could like take a step back and be like, given the circumstances in our games now, do we need to change how we do things finally? Like I think that that's long overdue. That's a whole other topic, and we can table that for next time or something. But have
Mhm.
we said enough about this? Do we want to move on to our next topic?
Yeah, probably.
It's okay. I'm just
Unless
trying to
there's
keep us on
something.
track.
Yeah, unless you have something, pressing, Ryan, or
No, I
I
mean, I
don't really
think
have
I've
any
pretty
other
much said
thoughts.
everything I was going to say about that.
Yeah. I do wanna go back through some chat a little bit. A lot of people said some stuff. I'm sorry if we haven't responded directly. I do want to point out that Wyatt, who is a Solani, had some opinions, and we both, me and Sryan, liked what he said, and we typed it in chat. He had an opinion, in no fashion a comment from a Solani perspective. I think giving city leaders the ability to have one or two custom roles would be an interesting addition, and they could determine what the city would best use those for. Maybe Dworin wants a ritual specialist, maybe Spines wants a head scientist, etc.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Like that's just, and that's a great idea. And he's not coming at that from a Solani perspective, but I think that's still, that's the kind of stuff that I'm glad even like that we're coming up with, but especially Solani's. And I think that when people have great ideas like that, you know, hopefully they listen to them more than they do to us. Um, but yeah,
I guess
go
I
ahead.
guess the only one last thing that I would say in terms of cities, uh, like city structure, is that I absolutely hate the speaker system. Uh, I think it's an awful idea. You know, like I guess that in theory it's supposed to be great to give every guild uh like its own like voice or something. But I mean, I guess if you think about it, it's you're I guess not really opening up the position for like people that are qualified to have it. Uh, it like
Yeah,
say for example, you have 10 just terrible, just absolute moron Templar. You basically have to pick the least moronic dipshit Templar, to represent your guild like to the city or whatever.
Mm,
I guess in the hopes that maybe you're the least moronic Templar,
hmm.
But I mean, I guess that on the other hand, it would, prevent like a certain clique of people from having control over the city. But I mean, I guess you
yeah.
could kind of game that in like spreading those people out to having uh each person be in that specific guild. So I don't know. I just personally, I'm not a fan of it. I mean, maybe that's because in Orion we don't have that. So I guess from like
Yeah,
an outsider's perspective, it doesn't look that great, and I kind of hate it. But I mean, if it's working for Bloodlock, hey, more power to you guys.
I would definitely say it's it's doing good work in Bloodlock. Because the problem that we had, um, as you and probably people watching are aware, was that for a very long time we had a guaranteed essentially unelected position on our city council
Hmm.
that belonged to a vampire.
The
Um,
Dominion. Yeah.
yeah, to the Dominion, and before that, even when it was Imperium and blah blah blah.
Right. Right.
But so, and like it's nothing against like the specific person, like Calidora, like Nikki and I get along. We used to play games a lot.
Yeah.
And so like it's not like it's not necessarily about like that person being bad or anything. It's just the fact that you end up having this like in Bloodlock's case in particular, you have this built-in imbalance, and you end up having the perception um that there is inequality, and that only or that like a certain group's perspective and priorities are going to matter more than yours no matter what. um because the other positions on the council could go to anybody, right? And um almost always they were um all or mostly vampires.
Hmm.
And so you had this feeling that like there was some stagnancy and this inability to really like push get or I guess gain any momentum within the city. Because vampires had a majority grip on the council.
Yeah.
Um, and so like now we have I mean almost well yeah in fact it is exactly the speaker system from Duran. And yeah, I think it's been really good for us. In sort of much the same way as it was good for Duran at the time that it was introduced, because Duran, I guess, I wasn't there personally, so I'm speaking, completely from what I was told, but like, they had some really massive, clique problems, favoritism kind of problems.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, you would end up with just the group of favorites, um, that, ruled everything and made all the decisions, and they're, kicking people out and making people miserable, and it was just a bad time. And that was, I guess, initially how how the whole speaker system came to exist. Um, now it used to just be one spot for each of the guilds, um, and then a fourth position for a non-gilded or a miscellaneous, I guess, person was added.
For the
Um,
Wayfarers, that's what it's for, right? The Wayfarers.
I don't know if it's for Wayfarers specifically,
I
but
know, I'm
yeah,
just being silly.
it was, I think, just to acknowledge that like there are people who aren't necessarily part of one of the guilds, and like they should be able to have some form of representation in the city government. Um, but yeah, I think like in terms of like infighting and like uh drama, quote unquote, in Bloodlock, like it's really been good for um, you know, making people at least a little bit like less upset about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we still have some other issues that we're currently working through, and I personally am being a pain in the butt about, but they aren't that kind of issue anymore. Um, it's there are things that we can overcome, now that there isn't like an artificial restriction on who you can have in office.
Yeah.
Because like if when we had the vampire seat, um the first player, Primus, disappeared.
Yep.
He just was, gone. um short not too long after becoming the first player, Primus. And so like the council was one down, and there was literally nothing anybody could do about it. They
Yeah.
couldn't replace him either as Primus or as the council member, and it was just like, okay, well, that's dumb.
Yeah. Hindsight's 2020, but maybe they could have predicted
Yeah,
that was a possibility before they implemented it. But yeah.
yeah,
I think I have a different perspective too about the Bloodlock stuff. Being that my previous character was in Bloodlock like his whole life, and he's like 400 something years old now. Like I had the character from like 2003 to like 2015 or something like that. Um, and I can kind of see it all unfold as to how it like all kind of led to that point. I think back in the day when I first made my vampire, Bloodlock was literally only vampires. Like they would not citizen anyone else. Um, and then there was the big RP drama back then about the Infernals being allowed to join because they weren't undead and they weren't vampires. And then
God damn right.
yeah, I'm sure you remember that too.
Yep.
But
I actually have a picture by the side of my bed, but that has the infernals on it, and I stare at it longingly,
right,
wishing one day they might fucking return.
yeah, probably keep wishing. But but like the point is like you have a lot of people that have that are still around even from back then. You have the really old players like myself that remember how things were and how they got to where they are now. And then you have people from like the last 5 or 6 years too, you know. And it's all about like getting all that to like kind of fit together and make a cohesive thing. I don't know that I really ever agreed with having the guaranteed spot for the Dominion. I think I was indifferent to it at the time. I do find it hilarious that like I retired that character and then I came back to Atoya like 4 years later and like Calidora is in charge of everything when my character was married to Calidora. And I never would have expected. And I also I'm a big fan of Calidora out of the game. Me and her have been friends for many years now out of the game. Uh, but I just always found it weird because like I know her and I know the Calidor character and I'm just like what like how like it just seems bizarre to me for someone that had like the character that has that sort of like the way she acts is like how is that the most terrifying big dog vampire in the game, you know? Like it's pretty wild.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
and that's like again, that's nothing against her as a person. Like I love her to death. She is one of my best friends. But like like I know how that character used to be, and I like and you know it's like how is that character the one that's in charge of the destiny of all the vampires? You know, like it's bizarre to me. But I've also been able to table that in my mind because it doesn't apply to me anymore. But it's just all the stuff in Bloodlock does seem very bizarre to me from the outside looking in. Just gotta say.
yeah, yeah. Well, so were we going to move
Yeah,
towards
we can
another
move
topic, or
for sure. So you know, a lot of people are here in the chat that I haven't seen in previous episodes, and I know they're from the Carnifex, and they're here to support you. So do we want to talk about the big, you know, like Steve had mentioned, guild versus guild discussion for Templar and Carnifex? Do you want to go with the big topic? Do
Jesus
we want to go with the
Christ.
big topic next, or do we want to do some of the other ones first?
Yeah, that's fine.
sure?
Okay. I don't really
I
know what
guess
you
I'm the
meant by
only
that
Templar
topic.
here.
No, I'm a Templar too. We're not gonna sit here and gang up on a
Well,
Layla though.
I meant real Templar.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha.
Artifacts
I'm just
rule,
kidding.
Templars
I see
rule.
how it is. I have been in the guild since I made the character. You used to be a filthy infernal, so I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Ha! Get some.
Wait, used to be. I think I still am one at the core.
Whatever. Yeah, you probably are. But anyway, yeah, I
So
wasn't
when I
sure what
brought
it
up
meant. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
when I brought up that guild versus guild discussion is that, I think that from the very early days of Atolia, that there were guilds that were like strictly built around each other. Uh, like you had the Infernals and the Paladins, you had the the Consanguine, and then eventually like the Luminari and the Daru were like born to be there. You know, they're like
Arch
their
enemy. Yeah.
opposing force. Um, and I don't know. I feel like that the dynamic has sort of shifted, over the course, and that maybe like the Templar have gotten a little soft, but it basically seems like that the Carnifex are just out there, just living their best life, you know, being these big bullies, and the Templar are basically just trying to de-escalate everything and kind of just enjoy their day. So
That's a hilarious way to put it. I'm just out here trying to get venom sacks. You
yeah,
know?
pretty
Yeah,
much.
can't y'all just chill? Um, yeah, I mean, like I wasn't here when paladins and infernals were a thing. Um, the way I like as a design decision for guilds or even classes to have like, okay, here's your opposite. You will have this opposite that you're in conflict with, and that's like your primary conflict. Um, like on the one hand, I can see how that's nice and it's easy, like it's easy for people to understand, but I feel like it's a little like it's a little shallow, and also like you end up having situations where um one side of that conflict might be at a low point in their in their activity or membership, and so the other guild will end up being bored
Yeah.
because they don't have their antagonists, and so I certainly feel like it's it's good in a lot of ways that we've moved away from having like specific, this is the other guild that you're the antagonist to. Um, but I think like it is kind of interesting in terms of how the Templar and the Carnifex developed. Just like from a historical and lore standpoint.
Yeah.
Um, how like they were very similar classes, for a long time. Um, with really one main big difference, their third skill. Um, Infernals obviously had necromancy, and paladins had, what was it, righteousness, or I forget.
Paladins had devotion, like how
Devotion.
the
There you go.
luminaries do now.
Gotcha. Um, yeah, so I mean, like it's interesting how they became more differentiated. Um, and I think that that's like an interesting thing, like as a reflection of lore. Um, because they have that whole connection from being like they came out of the Saluno brothers in
Right.
the way way back when in the back of the day.
Yep.
Um,
Sentinels too.
right, Sentinels, but like the Sentinels, I don't remember what I mean. I don't know what old Sentinel was like, but they didn't really have the same kind of family resemblance, did they? In terms of class abilities.
No, no, no. I think they used to be the hunter class or something. I know that's what it was on Empyrean back in the days. They called it
Druid
the hunter.
without groves.
They they used to have like
Yeah, pretty much.
basically, yeah, they had, I think, Woodlore instead of Groves. Uh, they had
Druid with
Metamorphosis, both of
crafts.
them.
That's funny.
Actually, I miss that skill set so much. It had so much utility. They actually had, I want to say it was
Tr-
venoms,
Tracking or
concoctions. That's what it
oh,
was. Yeah,
concoctions.
concoctions.
Yes, yes. I'm getting it mixed up with Empyrean.
Yeah.
Um, I'll probably summon Sarah if I say Quickfoot too many times, but um, yeah, I mean like enchantment skill. Um,
I'm not
Quick,
sure. Mages
I've
used to be the
started.
one that had
I've started
enchantment, right?
Quickfoot.
I think
Yeah, it was their third skill.
Magi
That
or
was
whatever.
re- kind of unfortunate.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it sure was. Yep. And the Paladins Infernals used to have forging as their third skill.
God, that was so terrible.
I
Like
remember
talk
it.
about other classes had like three actual like combat skills, but then you had the Infernals and the Paladins who just basically had chivalry and necromancy or
Yep.
devotion. So, God,
yeah. Well, so like I don't know. I mean, like in terms of like I think the Templar do still kind of they seem like they have more of a concept of like knightliness or chivalry
Right.
than the Carnifex have preserved. Um Maybe I mean you guys could correct me if I'm wrong. I've never actually been a Templar. Um but yeah, because you have that kind of um you have like a morality is like part of your imperative, like as a Templar knight.
Right.
And so you have like that works a lot better with chivalry, whereas Carnifex are kind of like whatever. We do
Yeah.
whatever. Like
Yeah.
we have ideas about discipline and things like that, but like chivalry is sort of like why would we care about that? Like that doesn't help us, achieve our goals. It doesn't help us kill people or be the strongest. Um, so chivalry's dumb. We don't like it. And anytime somebody says to Alayla like, "Oh well, where's your honor? Your honor as a knight?" I'm just like,
Jesus, dude, I hate that. Like, if I had $1 for every time that somebody said that stuff to Serain when when he was an Infernal or as a Templar. Man, I probably could have won that artifact auction hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
yeah, I mean, like I think that that is a difference. Like I don't right now in the Carnifex, and I'm sorry, Mill, but like we don't really have like a whole lot going on. Um, we have like a decent base of like fairly active players, but like as a guild, we're just kind of coasting. Um, and so like any perception that like we're going around um bullying or whatever is probably just like because a couple of us are really loud.
A
And
couple.
so like
A
and so
couple.
we yeah, well, I mean, um but like we make ourselves appear larger than we are, maybe. Um,
Name more
name
than
more than
three.
three.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
I mean, there's Mule, there's Alela, and who else is loud? I mean, Rosetta hasn't been around for a while.
probably Canavara.
Maybe.
Isn't Yetiv
Het-
a Carnifex?
Hetta, maybe. Yeah, Yatava is Xenia's loud when she's around. Yeah. Um, but I mean,
Almol.
it's oh yeah, almond. Um, the
The
Minotaurs.
Solani just has a whole
Just
list. Love it.
in general, the
The
Minotaurs.
Minotaurs are like their own faction of Carnifex.
Um, we do have Minotaurs in the keep now that are just like
Yeah,
uh
we got our
wandering
first one
guards
recently in
slash mob.
Templars.
They're
Like,
very cool.
yeah, well, we got our first like Templar player
Player
Minotaur
character.
recently.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
it's been a lot of fun seeing him do his thing.
Mill's very protective of them. Um, we'll just ignore the fact that I killed the first batch.
Oh god, of course.
Alayla got really mad that they didn't salute her. So, so she gave them a few tries. She a few different times she went in, she's like, okay, you better salute me, and they just stood there, and she finally got mad and killed them. So they had to go get a new batch. Um and yes, this canonically happened. Like the leader left and came back like a day later or something. Um yeah, the whole word. I think I hit them once too. It wasn't even like a hard or anything. It was just like one bashing attack and they all died. It felt a little bit bad. But yeah, so I mean like the Carnifex, if we seem like we're very if we seem like we are a group that needs to be dealt with at all, it's more just because we're loud and yelly
Yeah,
than that we
that's
have like a
that.
really well defined like mission at the moment.
That seems like it's always traditionally been the Carnifex roleplay, and this is somebody again. Like on my old Shadow character, I had dealings with them when they were being founded and stuff, and like even though I was in Bloodlock at the time, and so were the Carnifex. One of them gave me class back then because I wanted to have the class, and even though we were all like, this person gave me class, and then the guildmaster at the time was like not okay with it, so I got enemied to the Carnifex while being in the same city and stuff. But they've always been very aggressive and loud the whole time. And I'm not really sure who initially came up with that role play, but it's definitely been something that they're known for. And I think inside the Templar, we are very like a lot of our old members and our leadership are always like basically trying to get us to not act like the Carnifex. That's kind of our role play. Like it's like, and they're very like don't respond to them. You're just going to encourage them and give them what they want. And I get that like point of view from the Templar, but at the same time that also kind of like is another thing that's like, oh, don't respond, don't cause anything to happen, and then therefore nothing happens. So. Oh, I know you. I know the Carnifex love the attention. That's why they would shout. Like it is what it is. That's the role play, or at least that's from my perspective, that's what the role play is.
See, I would say like I mean, I don't know I don't know how. Maybe let me try again. I don't know. I feel like it wouldn't be good for a guild to define itself so strongly that way, like in opposition. Um, because I mean, like even the Indorani, the way I viewed the Indorani, like while we may have earlier on been, very, more against like druids and stuff, but um, I saw us, and really the lore actually states that we're the counterpoint to the Illumini, the old Illumini, um, and therefore by extension the current Illumini. But like I don't think that we played it like they were like we weren't trying to respond to them specifically. And in my time in the Illumini, like they also weren't responding to the Indorani specifically anymore. Like sure, like there was. It's not like they were completely ignoring each other, but it wasn't like that was the specific main thing that they were focused on. Um, and so I wonder, like, I mean, I don't know what the Templar Guild is like right now, but like, is it
It's pretty
quiet
dead.
or like, is
Yep,
it?
it's the deadest it's been since I made this character.
Hmm.
Which is not really for lack of trying. I mean,
Right.
sorry to interrupt. I mean, we try to, set up like guild events and stuff like that, but it's very difficult to do when our membership has slowly been dwindling. In terms of people either leaving the guild, uh, new people, new pages, new squires, new aspirants that don't like their activity definitely wanes. And we also have knights that also don't log in regularly anymore. Like I want to say that Akin hasn't logged in about like almost 20 days. Benedicto's been gone for over a week. So it's just very difficult to get people back into the guild when it's basically just me and Eric's.
I mean, we do have other
So
people. It's just like our membership, and this again, this is not trying to pick on the Carnifex, but this is the truth of it. A lot of our members are not as loud. Like they just aren't. Um,
it's true.
that's just how they choose to play the game. A lot of them, like since Iastia came over from the Carnifex, you don't really see her shouting as much and stuff like that. So like something, and she's not a big combatant, so you don't see her out there making a big name at lessers and stuff like that, and that's fine. It's just we don't. A lot of our honestly, a lot of our active members are people that are not knights, like he was saying. Um, it just is what it
Hmm.
is right now, unfortunately. But it's been a lot of fun trying to teach them and stuff too, and getting to know them.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Well, and Kanisha's right here. When there's not a lot going on in the game at all, it's hard to sustain
Yeah,
activity on your own. Um, I mean, it's there is obviously some push and pull, like where, um, you know, eh, when guilds are more active, the world can seem more alive. It might not be more alive in the sense of like a, um, overarching, you know, worldwide story, but like it can be more alive in terms of players are
yeah,
around and stuff is going on. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean it's hard. It's definitely hard, and I absolutely do empathize with the Templars.
yeah.
Um,
Well, it's like I think part of it too is that like if you're just an average person, and again, obviously my in my mind an average person is going to be relatable to me. But like if I go and I play any kind of video game, an MMO or anything, it's probably going to be more interesting to play something that I'm not, which is like, a boisterous, aggressive, evil type character that is undead or whatever, like the Carnifex or whatever, compared to like playing a Templar that's expected to be strict and wear their uniform and do this and do that, you know. Like, and I think that's a lot of it's like which sounds more fun to the average person, you know. And that's why you typically see more Carnifex, I think, than Templar. So
Uh, I mean, I
Yeah,
think
I
that's
mean,
a pretty like I don't know. I mean, that might be how you play Eric's, as like that upstanding,
right,
like uniformed, Templar, but that is absolutely not Saran at all. Like, I mean, he walks around shirtless half the time. He's covered in tattoos and he has, fucking nipple rings.
using
So,
Shadow Flare too.
right, yeah, Shadow Flare and
nipple
Shadow
rings.
Shield and like, I mean,
Ooh.
yeah, I mean, he's probably like the edgiest Templar you'll ever find, and somehow he managed to be second in command. So, uh, I think that it's just, I don't know. I personally have never ever been a fan of like that, that typical like white knight, stereotype, like that's never been Strand. And I feel like that I was really wary of going to the Templar at first. And because I wasn't sure, how this character that I've had for over, like 10, 12 years, how he would, somehow fit into being, this good, upstanding person. But I think I've kind of made it work,
Hmm.
in that he's good for the right reasons. Uh, and I don't know, good for bad reasons too.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And
I mean,
it's
I know that like for me, I personally, when I started playing Atolia, I did not want to play an evil character. And so like technically, very technically, my first character was a Sisson, because I didn't understand the person who introduced me to Atolia, kind like was saying that Sisson is a neutral class. But I didn't understand what like the difference between class
right.
and tether was. And so like when I got to Spine's Reach and I found out like, oh, they're the bad guys, I was kind of upset and I literally just immediately abandoned that character and made Vixis. Um, and so um, I wanted to be a good character. I wanted to be one of the good guys. And I think that like a lot of people probably, I mean, maybe not a lot, but I think there are probably a number of people who feel similarly. Like they don't really want to play being a, big bad evil. Um, because I certainly didn't for, my first while. And so that can be the thing that might drive some people to join the Templar. Of course, there can also be people who are like Shrine who are like doing their best to be the worst.
Hmm.
Yeah.
um, but I mean, I think that that's that is a very good and valid role playing angle as well to you know be a good guy with some cracks.
Yeah,
Um, and I like that's very human, right? Like it's just a very real thing.
yeah,
Um, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if the. I mean, I'm not gonna say that we should compare numbers exactly, but I don't actually know if the Carnifex are larger than you at like this moment. Um, Again, I think it's really just that like we're loud.
right. Yeah,
So
Maybe.
like our presence feels a lot larger than like it actually is because we take up a lot of space verbally.
I mean,
Which is funny because like I don't think I am. I mean, clearly I talk a lot. You're dealing with me talking a lot right now,
it's okay.
but I don't think that like I am personally like a loud person.
Right.
Um and like I think that in general like I probably tend towards being a little bit more meek. And so like I'm definitely not like my character in that way. Like I'm goofy probably, but like um I definitely yeah, I don't know. I see both ways,
Yeah.
I think.
You don't strike me as a loud person outside the game, but your characters, in my experience, have traditionally been quite loud.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they definitely, yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I'm saying like it's but I've also found that to be true of a lot of other people. Like for example, even to show an example outside of Atolia, when I go and I play Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO, right? I almost always gravitate towards the Sith Empire because it's just more fun to be something you're not, you know. At least to me. Um, but it's weird to me. It's like in Ayatollah, like my character is kind of close to who I am in real life, but not. I mean, also not really. Like it's weird. I would not. It's just weird. I don't know. Like I just I guess what I'm trying to say is like I think a lot of people in Ayatollah try to be someone they're not because that's the most fun thing to do. Um, at least in my experience. But yeah, so like as far as the Templar versus the Carnifex too, I will say also I feel like the game, and that maybe this is me being biased, and I don't mean to be if it's the truth, but like I feel like the game, at least the story right now, is more set up to be more interesting to the Carnifex than it is the Templars, because like the Carnifex are very tied to Bamathis, and Bamathis is the big thing in the story right now. So it's like we they get to be like the guild that's all about like enforcing what Bamathis wants in the big events, and then we as Templar get to literally be the ones picking up the garbage, like, and that's just not super fun to
Yeah,
some people.
I mean, kind of. I mean, I think it's yeah, I'm gonna agree with Mill that unless she's not talking about this. Um I don't think that we don't really specifically follow Bamathis's like teachings. Like he has become our patron. Yeah, Emil is saying we're not tied to him tightly at all. Like so Bamathis became our patron um not long after he was introduced. And before that it had been Iosine for like years and years. Um and I would say I mean, yeah, I'm just gonna repeat Mule at this point. The guild is very ISI. Um, like we make a lot of it's sort of like very um you get stronger through pain and suffering. Um and and so like we're kind of more like a death cult, where like we willingly throw ourselves through the meat grinder, um, to become stronger and you know, weed out the weak. And that's kind of how we view our activity in Sapiens like at large is that um we 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 are culling the weak, like we're making all of Sapiens stronger by, you know, um yeah, just culling weakness, and those that survive become stronger, to fight us off. And
Mm,
um so like that's kind of our role, and like it sort of maybe is sort of incidentally working towards Bamathis's goal, because like he wants he obviously wants to see Sapiens be able to fight off the Albedi threat, right?
mm,
But like we're not like the Carnifex aren't specifically about anything to do with albedos. Like we're um yeah.
mm,
So like it works in that like we cause strife um and struggle, but I wouldn't say that like we're we're definitely not like directly Bamathis's like right hand or anything like that. Um and I think in kind of a lot of the same way that like I mean even the Indorani, Derry Duke just mentioned the Indorani, where like inspired by Chakra Soul, but like particularly toward the end, we were kind of moving into being our own thing a little bit more. Um,
Yeah, you tried to be your own thing, and the guild got deleted.
well, that was a little, yeah,
I mean,
that was a different,
I will
that was a
say
different issue.
that's I'm sure that's very simplistic of what it was, and I didn't mean to do that. I'm just saying like
No, no, it's fair.
that's just what popped into my head. But yeah, like
No, we got deleted for completely. I mean, the direction we were going was actually I think really good and was very
I was not playing at
people
the
were
time. That was
happy
while I
with.
was gone. Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's fine. Like I think it was well liked on the whole. But the reason for the deletion was not because of the things that were introduced. It was more just that like a um unfortunate confluence of roleplay factors and some out of character factors that had caused a bunch of tension with the pools. And I basically just like called the wrong bluff.
right.
Um, and it ballooned out of control, and it was a very bad time for literally everyone. And I don't mean just me or the other Indorani players, but I think it was a very bad time for the pools also. So um I don't feel too I do think we were set up, like we were kind of set up a little bit, but I don't think the pools quite recognized that they had set us up. Um, because there were certain things that I explained that seemed to be genuinely shocking to them. I don't necessarily mean this to become a let's discuss the Indorani issue
Right. Well, that's
thing
fine.
here.
We're
So
okay
I
with
mean like
tangents here. I find it fascinating.
I don't mind, but I don't necessarily like want to like derail the whole conversation.
Yeah. I mean, let's stay within this tangent a little bit before we get back to the Carnifex and Templar. I'm curious because I have things to say about the Indorani too. My experiences with them, which were before that. Do you have any interesting things to say about the Indorani, Steve? Like any experiences with them in the past that you found fascinating?
Yeah, I was in the Indorani back when Design and I want to say Benedicto, we were all in the Indorani, and that's probably my favorite class. I loved it. I love the
Right.
RP. Tarot is a little weird to do, but definitely like necromancy and domination. I love the guild. I love the direction that we had way back in the day. In terms of just being bad. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't around for like the nuking of the guild or anything like that, but I mean, uh, I guess if once Mirror Indorani comes out, that'll definitely be a class that I'm looking at getting.
Right.
Just because I've always enjoyed the mechanics of it, and I really hope that the RP and like the lore behind it is going to be great. Otherwise I probably won't pick it up. So I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I haven't picked up Warden, just because the RP doesn't really fit my character. So, but that's all I really have to say about Indorani.
Yeah. I'd like to share some things that happened because my shadow character was also in the Indorani for a time. Um, After not being in a guild forever, like he literally was just in a vampire house for 300 plus years or whatever. And then eventually I did decide to join the Indorani, and at the time, this was when Ashmer and Akirash were also like friends with me, and they were active, and they were also in the Indorani. And that was an interesting time. Back then, you also had like Jeremy, you had Tina, you had Neoma. Uh, yeah, I love Ashmer. I wish he still played. I still have him on Facebook. I check in on him from time to time. He's a really cool dude. But eventually, back then, they convinced me. Like I joined, and then I like contested for Guildmaster back then, and I actually won it after like 2 tries or something. And then that was one of the coolest things I ever got to do in Aetolia was be a Guildmaster for a little while. And at the time, we were trying to like that was around the time when Mandrake's Tower got introduced. I did like a guild event to help with that back then. That was a really cool experience. Also, I was giving the Solani behind our patron at the time some ideas of things, and I just kind of was spurting out ideas that I thought were interesting. And later on, I think they told me or hinted at that the idea gave them got transformed into what the Shattered Vortex became at the time, which was cool. Um,
Oh, nice.
yeah, that was just some stuff I did in the Indorani. Like I wasn't in it for long. I wasn't even guildmaster for that long. You know, things happened. I got contested. I was okay with it, whatever. And then like some other things happened in that character and Bloodlock that made me quit. But yeah, it was like a lot of fun. I've always loved the Indorani class. I specifically really enjoyed the version of it on Empyrean. Like before I even played the Aetoli version. So I was like, hey, I loved it on Empyrean. I'll probably love it here. And I did. It was similar but different, and that was a really cool
Yeah.
experience I had in the Indorani back then. I love how they all have the permanent tattoo on their forehead too. It's also a
Oh,
very cool
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it was a very fun detail. Um, yeah, Indorani, I mean, I loved that guild. I love the class.
Yep.
I would probably, I probably remain a little too dedicated to it, but I've also accepted that it pretty much is where it is. And so like anything I do in terms of role play that's about Indorani, it's like pretty much just for me.
Yeah.
I don't expect anything to really come of it. But just like I guess to wrap up like really quick so that there's the short version of what happened to Indorani is um I was getting on some people's nerves. Um I was told that in a very roundabout way. That didn't make clear what was going on. I had kind of a freak out about that. Um and when when we had the confrontation with Severn, um, I was actually like trying to be hyper careful. Um, but and so like I asked him like a clarifying what I thought was a clarifying question. Um, and unfortunately, like he took it as um it was taken as being like a challenge or like I wasn't listening to him or wasn't,
Mm.
accepting what he said. Um and so he did the thing where he grabbed Vix by the throat and held her up. He's like, "Don't you freaking do it."
Right.
um and there were a number of Inrani present at the time, and I went back to Bloodlock, and there were a bunch of us gathered and we were talking about it. And I was initially very like, yeah, no, we should not do anything about this. Um, but I would say the vast bulk of people who were there talking about it were like they're very upset um about the way Severn had handled it.
Hmm.
Um to the extent that they were saying like, if you don't go to Golgotha, like we will. Um and so, I kind of was like, okay, well, let me think about it a little bit. And so I went to my Haven, and I sat there and I was just like, okay, well, he said, like, I thought about it. I really thought about it. Um and I eventually came to the conclusion that like they haven't given they hadn't given us any like out of character warning that like, hey, this is a very real like way that this could pan out. Um and my knowledge of past guild removals um was really mostly with the Daru, who were, you know, very clearly told a number of times that like they were not really working out the way that was wanted. And so I thought, you know, rightly or wrongly, I thought that like I could expect something like that if we were actually in danger of getting deleted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so yes, so I went and I did it. Um, and initially when the guild was deleted, um, I was very I remained relatively hopeful about it. Um, I was telling people, like first of all, like the sort of, what do you call it, like a cutscene that they did where they fought Golgotha was like really cool. It really
Right.
was. Um, and and it was fun. I mean, you had Yvonne throwing Iocine, like through the air, and Golgotha, of course, proposing to Iocine, like just like there were, there was stuff that was funny and it was cool, and like this big fight in the sky, and it
Epic.
ended, and yeah, no, it was super cool, and it ended, and Severn stomped over Bloodlock, and he's like, I told you not to, and he opened up the shadow plane and pooped out a bunch of shadow on the tower, deleted the tower basically, and we were all kind of like removed from the guild, but we were nothing else was said to us. So I was telling people like, hey, this is still an ongoing thing. Golgotha said he's going to come back. And so like I fully expected this to like continue, there to be like a continuing thread of story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Probably after, the jock stuff was wrapped up, but I hadn't been given any reason to believe that like I didn't think that like we were for real gone.
Right.
Um, and there was like a thing where like a couple of days later there was a novice who graduated from novicehood and was put into the Indorani
Right.
Guild.
Oh, in the
Um,
guild. Wow. Okay.
yeah, and like none of the rest of us were there.
Oh, well.
And so I was like, oh look, see, it still exists.
Yeah.
Like we might,
It gave you
they'll be coming
hope
back.
on
But
accident.
but like the thing is, like I was very actively like trying to tell people to like calm down, because like a lot of people in the guild were very upset, and I don't think that they were wrong to be upset, because it felt like it came out of left field, um that we would be gone. Like I think that it's easy for people who aren't really involved, and looking at it, from an outsider's perspective, to say, well, this god told you that it was going to happen. Like, so why are you surprised?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, only, you know, we're not only characters. Like, from an in-character perspective, like, yes, I should have
Yeah.
expected it.
You were never
But
giving a
like,
mechanical warning, basically. You were
yeah,
just
I
yeah,
mean, as
like nothing big and red popped up. It was like, note, if you continue this line, then X mechanical thing will happen to you and your guild,
yeah.
basically.
And there was certainly time, because I didn't like immediately run off to Golgotha. Um, but yeah, so like my my role became like kind of like a mediator between Indorani and the the administration. And so like I think that to some extent, like as much as like I frustrated the administration at this time, and I definitely, like, I'm not gonna like try to defend myself, because there were things that I did that were really out of pocket. Um, However, I don't think that the administration like fully um grasps like how much anger I defrayed, and like how much I made it be like less bad than it may
Right.
have been. Because if like the whole Indurani guild had just like gone at the administration, it would have been like much nastier. Whereas like I kind of funneled it through myself.
Yeah.
Um, but
Also,
yeah,
I
I don't
just
know.
wanted, well, I know, I just wanted to say that I think part of it, and this is from somebody who's played the game off and on for 20 years or whatever, but was not there in this instance. I think a lot of it too is like I can't remember off the top of my head any other example of that happening to anyone else. I think that's a
Right.
lot of the problem. Like I think that's a lot of the problem. It's like I could live with, like, if I was still in the Indorani and that had happened, yes, it would have sucked in the moment, but I would have been able to think to myself, wow, this happened to us. Maybe it could happen to other people in the future. Like maybe these other guilds will have this same experience, and you have to actually watch what you're doing. Like it would put more tension on the stake. It would give more stakes, like we've talked about before. But
Yeah.
when it just happens to one group of people, it like that feels a little
Right.
weird.
Well, and I think for me, what is the big issue is that because we were kind of told at the time after I finally issued and said, hey, I really would like to talk to somebody because it's been several days that we haven't had any communication. I just want to try and figure out what's going on. And it was at that point made clear that like no, you really were deleted. um and so one of the things that kind of was said as time went on was that like, well, this is a way that players have an impact on the world, that they have meaningful agency. um and I say, okay, that's great, but like, um on the other hand, like you don't really see the reverse thing happening. Like a group of players coming together and like working together and stuff. Um they don't get made into a guild, right?
Right.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
form an org that becomes a real org. So like that is kind of like okay, it'd be cool if like both could happen. Like I would be less upset about a guild going away if it were possible to like
Make a
form
new
new
one.
guilds.
And
Um
I don't want to
yeah.
interrupt you or Steve, but I want to note that again, an
Wyatt,
empiric.
it's not exactly that this never happened,
Well,
but the Central were like an offshoot of the Magi.
no, no, no. I was just
And
gonna say in
the
Empyrean
Daru,
they had a system to do that. You literally had a charter system in Empyrean where you could like go request a charter, get X amount of gold and signatures, and make your own organization. And
yeah,
I have no idea. Like, I guess that's not true. I do have an idea as to why that's never appeared in Aetolia. It's probably the shrinking player base. But I always thought that was fascinating, and that would literally be exactly what you were asking for. And it just
yeah, I
stinks
mean
that we
something
never had
like
it
that.
here. Yeah,
Well, I would just say Wyatt, like it is kind of the origin of the Ascendral, but it's not exactly. I mean, it's like the Ascendral had like a story reason for existing as an offshoot of the Magi. Um, and like same, like you could say the same thing of the Daru. Like I've been told, and I don't know how true this is, so grain of salt, but like I've been told that the Daru like came into existence because somebody wanted to buy like their own version of the monk class,
hmm,
and some previous administration was like, cool, give us enough money and we'll do that. And so the Daru were born. um so yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
It happened. It's sad to me. I wish there were things that I had known at the time. I wish there were things I did differently at the time. Um, just in terms of my personal behavior. So like I'm not gonna like just purely defend myself. Like I
yeah.
absolutely
Well,
wish I had done things differently, but like
as negative,
from
I was
yeah.
just gonna say, as negative as it was, do you feel like there was positives for you as a player to be gleaned from it? Like, did you learn? Did you, anything like that?
I mean,
or
as
was
a
it?
player, I think it took me a long time, I will say. Because like I tried to truck on with Vix for a little bit, and then I kind of took like a brief hiatus, and then I came back as Vix, and I just felt like I couldn't I couldn't move past it. Um, and like as a huge thing that happened, like it makes sense that it would have lasting consequences, but there was just this um players also made it very hard. Um, and so like I ended up deciding that like I couldn't really go anywhere with Vix, and I also was just like very hurt on a personal level. Um, I felt like I had all these things just sort of um all this behind the scenes anger aired at me all of a sudden that felt like it was out of nowhere. Um, and so I retired Vix, and I tried to come back as Hoa, and that that didn't work out well either. um, and that was again like I was angry and um, behaved very poorly, and I wish that I could change how I did, but like I think that what happened eventually for me, what I eventually learned was, um, I had a light shined on me enough times that I finally took seriously like the idea that like I had some personal responsibility, or more personal responsibility than I like might have wanted to admit. Um, and it got me to look at myself and like look at my behavior and how I was engaging with the game. Earlier I mentioned that like I don't really sect anymore.
Hmm.
And that was because like I realized that like being super involved in sect and 1v1 PK, like I just was I was an uglier person than I wanted to be. Um, so it was a hard lesson, I think, just in general, like um, to realize that like my idea of myself didn't really mesh with you know others' experience of me. And realizing that I would then have to do something about that, that I had to, responsibility for fixing that was on me. Um, So yeah, and it's weird. Like I'm in my 30s. I feel like I, I should not behave like a child. And
Yeah,
yet, I have. So
yeah. Well, I think we've
it's an
all been there.
embarrassing thing.
I think we
Yeah.
have all been there that play these games, whether we want to admit it or not. Like, and again, like we've discussed on other streams, a lot of it comes to the fact that when we all started these games, a lot of us were much younger. I'm not saying that's
Yeah.
just you because, like, I don't know how long you've been playing Iron Realms games, but a lot
Oh,
of us,
literally
yeah.
since 2017.
Okay. Well, a lot of us that have played since the early 2000s or 2010s or whatever, it's like, we were in our 20s when we started, or like, late teens,
Or
some of us.
teens, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, you're just going to have that over time. Like, everybody's going to act like a child. It's just human nature. Because honestly, we're all children. We're just various ages of children.
Now we're just
Like,
30-year-old children.
I mean, some people are, man. Like, I don't know. But yeah, let's move on a bit here. Do we want to talk any more about Templar and Carnifex, or are we good on that?
Um, I don't have anything specific to add.
Yeah, no, I think I'm good on that.
Okay.
So
There's a few things I have listed.
Code gates.
Well, there was the Code Gates thing, but I kind of wanted to wait for Side End to be back like next time
Okay.
because that was his idea specifically. I didn't know exactly what. I think what he wanted to mention about that is like let's in general talk about like the code gating to be good at certain things or do certain things well in Aetolia. You know, like
I
uh,
definitely have opinions about this.
yeah. Oh, and I do want to do it with him, and you're welcome to come back when he's here too, and we could all do it together. Um,
Yeah. Cool.
I'd like to do that. So and this is going to be another one of these controversial one, and again, it's going to sound like we're all just being negative, but I don't really feel like that's the case. We wanted to talk about the shop system because that was a thing that was talked about this week on Discord and I think the forums and stuff. Um, so like shopkeeping is another, in my opinion, example of things that are one extreme or the other. If you've never owned a shop and you can't get one, it feels like it's a really negative, crappy system. But if you own a shop, you know exactly, like, you know a lot of how it works, um, and so forth. But I guess even still, you might think the system sucks. I have opinions on this. I have a shop. I don't know if you two, like, I think Steve has shops in the city and in
Yeah,
Orin.
I
I
have a
don't know
shop
if
and
you do.
I run the dark order shop.
I don't know how you like. Have you ever owned shops or done shopkeeping or interacted with the shop
Yeah,
system?
I've had shops before, like in the past, like when I was in Spines Reach, and I think maybe I briefly had one in Bloodlock. And I'm just gonna go out on my hot take here. I absolutely hate shops. I think it's awful. I mean, if you like to do that whole shopkeeper like RP and you like to put in time to craft and sell your wares, I think it's a great thing. But
Yeah.
in order for somebody to like the buy-in on that is just ridiculous. Like I actually, for whatever reason, I got my shop in Anorian for I want to say it was like 30K. Uh,
Wow.
because I think the other person that was bidding against me sent the message to put their bid to the wrong person.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so I got it for 30K, which was like just that's like literally unheard of. You'll never
Yeah.
get a shop for 30K. Like they go for like millions of gold sometimes.
Right.
Uh, so like I've already like definitely made my gold back, and then some since getting the shop. But I mean it's a lot of work to do, and I'm personally not a fan of it. And I mean I have Katria who helps me a lot with it. Like she'll go through and say, oh, by the way, we need this forge for this shop, and I also stock her shop in Durin too. Uh, so she's really great about tracking all of our profits and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Like without her, I probably wouldn't have even bid on the shop, to begin with. Um, and just in general, in terms of like owning shop stuff, as Phoenicia said, it's expensive and it's tedious and it's not something I enjoy at
Yeah.
all. But I mean, I totally get that some people do enjoy it, but I
Yeah.
think that in general, uh, I don't know. I feel like the shops they've almost been with us since day one. And to do a massive overhaul on it will probably piss off a lot of players,
Right.
especially if they own, two, three, or four shops. Uh, but on the other hand, I don't know. I'm not sure how viable it is to be that type of person who, where you don't have a shop and you just, offer like word of mouth, type wares.
Yeah.
So I mean, all of my wares, like they're it's just the base, like forged goods or whatever they like go in my shop. And I think a couple times I briefly, tried to do custom forging orders for other people, but I really have to be like in the mood to like design
Hmm.
stuff, and it gave me a lot of anxiety to like try to meet this deadline for somebody. And I think after the last custom design I did for somebody, I was just like, okay, like I'm no longer doing designs for other people. Like I'll do them for Katria, I'll do them for me, but you know,
Right.
sorry, I don't do custom orders anymore.
So, Alayla, have you ever had a shop?
Um, yes, sort of. I had um so the Indirani had a guild shop, which, was sort of in my name vaguely. And then Liana had a shop. That we sort of, I mean, it's mostly hers. Yeah, we call it the last laugh.
Hmm.
Um, and like I personally didn't do a whole lot to keep things stocked. I think I was discussing earlier on the Discord that like I did like four relatively simple jewelry designs for the shop, for our shop, Liana and Fix's shop. Um, but like we didn't really. I think we had some curatives early on, but then we kind of gave up because keeping curatives stocked is just like super punishing. Phoenicia just mentioned that like you have to take care of it like practically every day,
Yeah.
and at the time it was still relatively early in um the introduction of the newer curatives with the pills and poultices. Um, and so like the booster, the elemental ash and ice were
Hmm.
like difficult to get and they were expensive.
They still are.
So I think yeah, no, they still are. But I mean at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
now you can make, 10 pills to
Right,
an
right.
ingredient,
Well,
whereas at the time it was only one.
I want
Or
to
is it
say something
five?
about the herbalism thing while we're on it, because
Oh, go ahead.
I had herbalism for a long time. I actually finally forgot herbalism recently and switched to toxicology because of this fact that like so before the herbalism change, you made like I think it was one pill, right? One pill per herb or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And now it's 10, and the problem we have now is back then like people it was hard to find antibiotic, but now we've went to the other extreme where it's too all the pills are too common because you have 10 times as much as you did and before. And so like you have a situation at least in Anorian where like there's a bazillion people selling pills, like and it's just hard to sell them at all, like because your only thing is to be like, okay, I'm gonna sell them lower, but then you start to go into those unwritten rules about like lowering your prices. And this is
Right.
like a problem that I've had, and that me and Sryan have talked and had conversations amongst us and other people in Anorian and stuff and Durin about that, and it's just really bizarre. Like, and I think that this kind of ties back in the shops. Like the original thing a lot of people were talking about on the forums this week is like, man, it really stinks that we can't get shops because these people are inactive and they have the shops and stuff. But I think one of
Yeah.
the solutions to that, in my opinion, would be to allow anyone to just build a whole new shop and then like have it be closed down when they're inactive, kind of like how the farm plots work in farming. But that would
Yeah.
also massively crash the economy. Like it's already on a thread for certain things like herbalism. Like, can you imagine like everybody who wants to have herbalism and having a shop having herbalism? All the pills in the game would be
Yeah.
1 gold, all of them, and it would
Well,
just
I mean,
like
like when I started, herbs were all 1 gold each, and I loved it.
yeah, it's just
Um,
it's bizarre. It's like it's one of these things again that's super hard to balance, and it's just like but people who aren't engaged in the system because they can't even get a shop in the first place, they don't think about that either. They're just like, man, I can't interact with this part of the system. This sucks. And I used
Yeah,
to be
it
one of
doesn't
those
really
people.
foster new people trying to be, it doesn't really foster people trying to get into the, the whole, mercantile system. Like it's not easy for you to get into that game.
Yeah, for sure. Because nobody, let's be real, like anybody can learn mercantile skills, but if you don't have a shop, who's buying your mercantile stuff? You're
Right.
basically just using it for yourself so that you don't have to buy it from someone else. But then why, if that's how a lot of people are having to interact with it, why even call it mercantile skills? Like to me,
Right.
when you
right.
I
call
mean, I
something
know that,
mercantile, it's merchant. Like
right. I know that cities have, or Anorian, like in particular, just, I don't know, they recently passed this thing where they're updating the law, like in their shop policy that says that if you're late on, shop taxes or you don't meet like a minimum, like per, like, I don't know, sales requirement or whatever, for your shop, then we can repossess your shop. And I know that Belgarian actually had a shop, I guess, for a long time in Anorian, and he like hadn't really played, but his taxes were kept, I think, or maybe he was late on his taxes and he hadn't really like stocked his shop or sold a whole bunch. So he repossessed his shop, and like he came back and he was pretty pissed about it and made a big stink. I'm like, dude, you're not doing anything with your shop. Like I get that, that you've had this shop forever, but like if you're not going to do anything with it, like, why even have it? Give it to somebody else who will actually use it,
Right.
And which I feel like that same sentiment could be applied for a lot of stuff. Like,
Yep.
if you're a city leader or if you're a guild master who doesn't do anything, like step aside for somebody that
Yeah.
can. And I feel like that a lot of people need to get out of their own way of the feeling of that they would just rather have something and other people have not than actually like trying to let other people do better where they're clearly not doing better.
Right.
Yeah, I've noticed a thing. I d- I don't know if this is always the case, but I know that there are a number of people who um want to have a shop and they basically just use the the storeroom as non-decay storage
Hmm. I
for
do
all
that
sorts of
too.
things.
Yep.
And and so you'll have you'll have these people who have, a billion shops and they don't necessarily all sell very much. Um and I don't know if that's because that's what they're doing. Um I certainly understand that, like, if you have a shop, you would keep stuff in it, probably, just like, just in cold storage. But there do seem to be some people who like they take that to the extreme. Um, and so I kind of wonder if that's why people want to hold on to them a lot of the time. It's like the in case I decide I want to come back and I want to be able to have all this stuff.
Right.
Um, I don't know.
And the
Like I certainly didn't, with my two shops that I sort of vaguely helped keep going. I kept like a couple of things in Liana's, but like I just didn't. I don't know. Like personally to me, it's not the kind of thing that like I want to do in my um in my time in the game. Like I don't really care about keeping a shop, so I don't know how to deal with the problem, I guess.
I'm just in game. I'm highlighting like an answer to what Chastity's saying. It's a different topic, but yeah, it's like it's weird about shops. Like again, it's just like if you've never interacted with the system and you want to and you can't, that does suck. And I've been there too. Like there was a long time where I never had a shop either. Like I had a 300-400-year-old vampire that had never interacted with having a shop up until I got in on the Esterport thing when they first started doing that with the shops. I had a shop for a couple seasons there, and that was fun. It was really cool being able to do a thing that I'd never gotten to do before. Like that is a whole section of Aetolia that's really important. Like that people will come, they're like, I want to be shopkeeper, and they can't. They just can't because of X, Y, and Z reason. But then like there's this whole other world that when you are a shopkeeper forever, it's just like you're like, man, this is not all it's cracked up to be because of all these other reasons. And
Yeah,
but then people still just don't get rid of their shops either because they know that the opportunity to never like it the opportunity to have one again is very small. Like, and I think as much as it would suck for the economy, there has got to be a way to like allow people to engage and have a shop. Like even if like even if we make it to where you could like basically open a freaking lemonade stand and only sell one or two things in your shop. Like at least let people do that and engage with the system and the commands, you know?
yeah. I mean, so Mule just noted that cities do have some kind of hard limit on how many shops they can have. I don't know if 20 is the number, but it's certainly, in fact, I'm pretty sure 20 isn't the number because I feel like we have more than that in Bloodlock, but maybe it is. Um, but like yeah, they're just like these caps that were set at some point. Um, and everybody is in competition. Um, so like it's newer players are in competition with older players to get shops, and almost always an older player is going to have more um more resources, more gold. I mean, I remember, this is a few years ago now, but like I remember there was some sort of bidding war going on in the Esterport lotteries, and Karev was like really trying to win one shop,
Hmm.
and it was like it ended up being like millions of gold. It was
Oh yeah,
crazy. Um and there's just like there's no way that a new player could possibly have amassed that.
yeah.
Um I mean, even I don't look at gold in Atolia as like a particularly like meaningful limiting factor. Like I generally always find ways to have gold for whatever I need, but like millions, I can't hold on to millions. I'm not very good at saving in real life. Like I'm not gonna work very hard at saving in my text game. So, I don't know if there's like some way, like meaningful way to level the playing field, like what you were suggesting with the, that kind of
Eliminate stand.
farming. Yeah, or like the farm,
Oh, okay.
having it be
The
kind
farm
of like the
plots and
farm
stuff. Yeah,
situation where, everybody can make one, just one though.
yeah, yeah. Like I think the farm system and the way it's laid out would be really cool to use for shops. But again, it would probably require a lot of their time and a lot of overhauling and a lot of making people angry. But in the end, I think it would probably be a better system. That's pretty much my opinion on it.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah. I think we're coming up here in about 15 minutes. We're gonna get out of here. Let's let's move on. I think we talked about shops a good bit. There's a couple things we could talk about, or maybe one more thing we could talk about. I also want to talk about I want to get off on a slight tangent and say some non-topic related things. I don't mean to embarrass her or anything, but a friend of mine from another Twitch stream that mods in another Twitch stream that I mod in, I was kind of ranting about Aetolia to her last night. We were chatting in Discord, and she has decided to give Aetolia a try. She's never played Muds. She's in the chat here with us right now. She plays Illumina, is a new character, uh, and yeah, she's been watching the stream with us the whole time. I think it's cool to get new people going. I just wanted to shout out her. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being interested in this thing that is very niche. Let's be real, that we all love and enjoy. Um,
Yeah, welcome. We're obviously a little bit of a weird group, but um I hope you have a good time.
yeah. And another thing I want to mention is for those who may be in another window and have not been watching chat, if you want to join the giveaway for 50 credits, I give away 50 credits of my own credits every week on the stream. Type exclamation ticket space one, and it'll enter you into the giveaway, and we'll do it near the end here. Um, but yeah, we're running out of time here. I'm kind of hungry. I'd like to go eat dinner. I know Sryan has some things to do. I'm sure you do too, Layla. Um, is there anything we want to say before we get out of here in a little bit?
Mm, nope,
Nope.
really have anything.
Uh, yeah,
It was
no, I
fun
think
doing this though.
we're good.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say I was gonna talk a little bit about the class lead stuff because like we thought it would be done by now, but it wasn't. So we can kind of table that for next week. Hopefully, class leads will be implemented and we can talk about it. Along with the second batch of auctions, I did not look at the timer. I just assumed they would be done by now, and they're not. So we can talk about that next time too. Along with the code gate thing we mentioned, um, and maybe we could talk about the change log next time. But yeah, like I just want to also say that we're not trying to be super negative here. These are just things that are on our mind. I'd like to think everyone that's in this chat for a text-based game that's 20 years old is in it because they like playing it and they like the game. So I just want everybody to keep that in mind. We are all one Aetolian nerd here. So I think we yeah, I just wanted to say that. But yeah, so let's go ahead and I'll finish up the giveaway. I think everybody's probably entered that wants to enter, I would assume, that's paying attention. So I'm going to close the giveaway and we're going to see what happens. This is also the most we've ever had in one giveaway, so I'm interested to see who wins it. Let's see here. All right. DJ Jezzy Jez won.
Jezreth.
Oh, is that Jezreth? I didn't know. Okay,
This
cool.
guy.
That
I just
sounds
want-
like
I just want to verify. Is that you, Jezreth, in game? So I know who to give the credits to. Just say yes or no. Okay, cool. Let me transfer them to you, and I'll do it on stream so everybody knows I'm doing it.
I believed.
Good. I appreciate it. It's me, Mario. All right. So yeah, like I guess that's it. You know, we're gonna kind of end awkwardly here and suddenly, but it was a lot of fun. Thanks everyone for coming. If anybody has not followed that could follow, we really appreciate it. We're still pushing for 50 followers. I think with the let's see here, we've got about 6 new ones today, so we're probably at the mid 20s now. Oh, thanks, Alayla. Once we get to 50 followers, we can really make a push to try to get affiliate, and once we get affiliate, people can subscribe and stuff, and we can make emotes and stuff for the channel. And again, to those who have never came, part of my goal with getting affiliate and being able to take subscriptions is that I would take all the subscription money and I would turn it into credits so I don't have to give away my own credits all the time. But so we can keep doing credits. That's my goal. But yeah, let's get out of here, guys. I'm hungry. You guys are hungry. Everybody's hungry. We're hungry for blood. We're hungry for sandwiches. Whatever. Yeah.
Hungry
We'll
for
be
blood sandwiches.
we will be back next week. Thanks for the follow, Chastity. Thanks for the follow, Layla. We'll see you next time. Have a good week.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye bye.
See you later.